Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 17th Eden ƒractal event. Jesse joined and is sharing some really cool stuff about the bees we've been talking about and swarms and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, I'm sorry if I interrupted the conversation there to start the recording, but was there anything else you were saying there, Jesse or Lenny, anybody?
I could just do a quick recap for the reporting. We have launched subsidized swarms. Thank you to everyone who's donated to our Pomelo grant. We are going to do 7 free subsidized swarms per week. Sign up through the chatbot. There's 5 left this week. And the point is, if together as an EOS community, we put those hashtags and hashtags EOS on the tweet, we swarm it, we're going to rank high on Lunar Crush and other social listening tools that we are building a case, a data-driven case, that it's directly correlated to the movement of digital assets. And so we believe that we can climb the market cap rankings if we're able to swarm a lot for EOS. And that was the whole point of our grant, and we're doing it. So please feel free to create a thoughtful tweet hashed with the hashtag and hashtag EOS and sign up for the swarm. It's a limit of 1 per week. So you can do it once per week. And we're going to monitor this for 4 weeks to see the demand. There's other ways we can do it. Like, for example, we're doing 7 per week at 100 bee swarms. This is a kind of a new thing, relatively new, that you can order a different amount of bees. We have our max capacity at around 250, 300 bees. Maybe we do, 5 per week at 150 bees. So, but we're starting at 7 per week, 100 bees. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, so thanks again, everyone, for donating to our Pomelo grant. And hopefully we're going to deliver a lot of value with our subsidized swarm product.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse, for the overview and introduction. And yeah, Charles is clapping. And yeah, I think that'll be super helpful for the community. And I also think about how I can maybe use those and CSC's whistling. So sounds great. Thanks, Jesse. And also thank Nicholas too. And thanks to all the bees. You guys are doing awesome work.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
So we'll break down the breakout rooms in about 7 minutes. If anybody would like to discuss anything, then feel free to raise it. One of the things that I'm sure we'll discuss today is an interim consensus process. We've been having lots of discussions about this lately for the past several weeks, and Vlad made a post in the Discord recently where he kind of summarized and simplified the votes proposal. And so if anybody hasn't checked it out, then I'd recommend you to check that out. And I'll also post a link to the message in the Discord. And I'm also happy to explain it if you'd like or discuss it.
There's a hurricane here. I'm in Florida. And so it's very interesting to just watch outside and to hear the noises of the wind right now. Hurricane Ian, category 4. Luckily, I'm on the east coast of Florida. It's touching down on the west coast of Florida, but we're getting the bands. And I don't know if you can hear it, but the wind is whistling pretty hard all night last night.
Yeah, I do hear it.
Yeah, same with me. I'm in Florida as well.
We're in Florida.
North Central, so it's just a tropical storm warning right now, but depending on the path, we may be not a direct hit, but expecting a lot of rain.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm up in Sweden nowadays, live down in the Southwest Pacific, where you got a minimum handful of cyclones passing nearby, and every now and then they hit you. 18, we had the biggest ever. So it was time to pack up after 35 years.
So you guys plan on going like windsurfing or like or kite flying or something, taking advantage of the nice weather?
Most definitely not. That's not my cup of tea, but I'm sure there's other people out there doing that.
Okay, yeah, probably for the best.
Sounds like you would be doing that, Dan.
I probably wouldn't be doing that. I do like the adventure and like the. I've never been windsurfing, and I don't know if I've ever flown a kite actually before. Maybe once or twice. So
Oh,
it'd be
Dan.
something new.
Dan's passion and pastime is recording everything.
That's true. CAC. It would be cool to go out with like a GoPro or something like that and go, catch all the big winds and waves while recording it.
Just keep in mind to have respect. Nature is uncontrollable. We are just small ants in the whole system. So be careful. Been living through it, and I'm a seaman.
You said you're a seaman, Lenny?
Well, to put it bluntly, I'm actually master mariner, at least on the paper, sea captain and all those things. But I jumped ship before I even got up in the ranks. So I've been working with other stuff since then. But it's a very good a ship in the ocean is, of course, a society, and you got everything there under the captain, from the law system, police system, down to the one who clean the toilets. You're in charge of it all on top of a crew. So it's a very good education.
Interesting.
You ever run into any pirates?
No, not myself. My brother he's been on, unfortunately, well, good or bad, oil resurvey vessels around African coast and stuff. So I know quite a bit about it, but myself, no, not.
Well, yeah, it seems like a good and an amazing learning experience. And I'm glad that you avoided the pirates. And hey, Evgie, good to see you.
Sure.
Maybe one day, Lenny, we can hear more of your stories about all the different places you've been. I know you said you used to live on like some small island somewhere remote at some point too for a long time, and like the Pacific, maybe.
Were you referring to me? I had some noise here.
Yes.
Yeah, I lived in something called Captain Cook called it the Friendly Islands, but they actually killed him in the end. But it's called Tonga, Kingdom of Tonga. 3 hours flight north of New Zealand. Same latitude as Hawaii and almost the same longitude on the other side of a dateline, but other side of the equator. So it's pretty good climate.
Okay, interesting.
Heck of a lot better than the cold Sweden. You can see how I dressed most of the time.
Right, I imagine. Welcome, Jorge, and welcome, Chris. Good to see you both, and also welcome, Felix, too. Hope you're all doing well. And it looks like we're at 13:15, so we can break out in the breakout rooms. We've had 13 people right now, so that means that we'll go into 3 groups of 4 or 5, I think. And then if you're in a group of 4, what's that, Nicholas?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that, are we going to be able to share our screens or not?
thank you for asking. And yes, I believe that I made it so everybody can share. So you will be able to
Okay,
share your
cool.
screens. Yep. And I also give everybody
Thank you.
recording permissions too. You're welcome, of course. Thanks for asking. And yes, everybody can also record and share your screens. And I think that's all the permissions. I can also put on the live transcription too, but I don't remember how to do that. So maybe we'll do that later after we get out of the breakout rooms. Okay, breakout rooms open. Hope everybody enjoys. Um, I think Jorge is supposed to be in this room too, and there was 4 people in each of the 3 rooms, and I was trying to decide which one to join. I don't have a system; I just click on one of them. But I was just thinking,
Yeah.
since Felix is already recording this one, I thought maybe it's better if I record the other one. But then again, that might be like breaking the randomization and stuff. So I don't know.
So there's 4 in each room on the
Yeah, it's 4 in each room, so I can go in whichever room because I have the permission as a host to join whichever one. And usually it's just like there's only one to join or something, so it makes it easier. But I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts? Should I just stay here and we'll do us 5, or maybe I'll go to one of the other ones so we can record it as well.
I'll glad if you go to another room and record it as well.
Okay, that works for me. That sound good, or I don't
Yeah,
think it makes
sounds
a huge
good.
difference either way.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't make.
Oh, I just see actually one room has 3 people now, so I'm gonna go there. I don't know what happened there. I'll see you guys later. Sorry for the
See ya.
confusion.
See you, Dan.
Hope you
Thank you.
enjoy.
Translate me as a translator. Oh, nice.
Hey, sorry
Hey,
guys for
Dan.
interrupting.
No worries. Just got started.
Okay,
Just
cool.
saying, part of a team, part of the EOS translation team, and awesome team. I've been working once a week with a translation group called Translate Me, and it was part of my Pomelo grant for them to translate a document to onboard people onto EOS. And with the end result of getting their translation team, they have 2 parts. One goes through a machine learning, kind of does a rough draft of a translation of a document. But the second part is meeting with their translation teams. They have about a dozen different languages of teams, of about 20 people, and actually onboarding them to EOS. So using the document that they translate. So hoping that this would just be another way to, just another way that people can find a way to easily get into EOS, and then taping all the videos and then going through a second translation. So just kind of investigating through our team of what that second translation is going to be, like the closed captions, so that we can have this in native languages of on video, the easiest way to get an EOS account. And then the longer goal is they have a reputation system within their own group that their own teams break out to see who should get bonuses, kind of seeing that might be just a perfect, use for ƒractally. So one step at a time. Yeah, the ƒractal that I've been running is specifically for the kind of the GameFi space, with the mission to set an example for teams, especially on Wax. We've got more games and more gamers over there. for them to use Eden and Fractally for just consensus making. So just a big thing with, there's a couple of different use cases. One is to reward real people. It seems to be the biggest use case. A lot of these pots of funds and tokens are distributed to players, and a lot of the human players are feeling it's unfair that they're getting botted out to someone maybe more technically inclined, knows how to use bots, and kind of draining the pot for everyone. We took a stance. We have a little team on Alien Worlds that bots were okay. We should reward everyone, but then we should just reward and kind of have a scaled system to slowly reward humans a bit more. And Fractally only being one of those levels. That's kind of the high bar. If you're kind of going up for an election and everyone has a different thought of it, we're promoting ourselves going up for elections saying, hey, don't trust an unanimous person. And that's just our political stance because we're willing to go on camera. I realize different sectors of the world just can't, even for their safety. Like we wouldn't expect, a whole Chinese crew to feel comfortable, stating their election goals and how they want freedom on camera, right? So there's different levels. We're just picking this one more because there hasn't been an option other than token weighted voting. So the game itself is asking players to use their hard-earned Trillium or their bot Trillium to vote on people. So we're not affecting their gameplay. We're just saying, hey, there's other ways that once you're in charge of a pot of money in an MSIG, how are you going to be, responsible to the community? How are you going to show them that you're actually coming to some consensus? And how are you working with the other people in the group? So the biggest experiment is not really going to be that. It's how you're actually working with other elected people that you might not know, right? So that'll be the interesting part. So yeah, a lot of fun experiments. We kind of talked about the use case for Eden and the NFTs already having that little badge and seeing how that could be utilized on these other chains as well as a kind of reputation system. So yeah, doing a lot of work there, a lot of fun, and yeah, glad to be here with you guys. And yeah, I'll switch it over to Chris. You're next on my screen here.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I think it's an interesting idea where you could maybe, once IBC becomes a thing, you can use tables from Eden communities and map that into these wax games. So then at least you can, like, these are real people. And then I think there's an opportunity to add Eden accounts that maybe can participate in only the first election, like the first round of an election, but don't have to turn their camera on.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if there's flexibility there where they have a unique voice. If they talk, I don't know. But I know there's a few people who said, hey, like, I can't turn my camera on, but my avatar, I'm talking, my voice has a unique, distinct sound. Yeah. And maybe they just can't make it to the end. Maybe they just only can do first round and that's it. And they can only be voters. Like, they can't even be someone who gets elected.
Yeah.
But then at least maybe, I don't know, if we want to add flexibility, we could increase membership that way for sure.
I think it's really very reasonable, and let's experiment with it. You know what I mean? If someone tries to game it, well, then we have another learning out of it of what we have to do. Like, the people here, we know each other's backgrounds and faces. If for some reason Vlad wasn't able to be on camera, we'd still give him respect today. You know what I mean? Because it would take a lot for someone just to slip in. We could qualify with Vlad later if we wanted to throughout the other channels. So yeah, I think it's really reasonable just to have these little steps, and then also excited about ƒractal, all these different tools that we can finally utilize to help us organize, right? It doesn't help the messiness of governance, the human factor, right? But all these steps can get us to practice to get along. And I think it's going to build the reputation of EOS as a whole, showing these other chains that there are these tools, right? So we're kind of always pioneers in this space. And I think this is how we're going to grow our ecosystem. So yeah, I'll be quiet. I'll give it to you.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned a point, like we've just added to the bylaws proposal anyway for the next set of chief delegates to ratify, but a way to remove members. So to this point, now that we have that, if it gets passed and we have a contract action to remove an account from the Eden table, or at least active membership, then we can kind of risk, okay, well, we might get attacked, but at least we have a means to counteract that. Okay, my update, let's see. same stuff, I suppose. Eden, we had our chief delegate meeting. It was a good one with Dan yesterday. That hopefully the recording will be out later today or tomorrow. I've sent that off to Michael to do. We're getting ready for the election. I did a tweet to support the Eden election and like to promote it. And I'm going to use part of my chief delegate funding to pay for the swarm. So it got quite a bit of anything you pay to swarm seems to do well in terms of the algorithm. So hopefully that leads to, I did notice a few new faces in our public Eden on EOS Telegram channel. So that's sort of the top of funnel right now. Still working through the website that I'm making for all this. It's going to be slightly more politically leaning for now because it's going to go after the Independent National Convention group. I think most of you guys, I told you about that last week. So that's still moving forward. I think that's about it. I'm going to join first in a long time the Genesis ƒractal meeting on Saturday that Joshua does and the other crew does. So I'm going to be on that for the first time. I haven't been able to do that. I'm actually going to be physically with Josh. So it makes it easy since I know he's going to be on that. So I'll just kind of sit near him and I'll have my laptop and I'll also be on it. So that'll be good. But that's forward work. So don't count that. And I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We've done, I mean, lots of little stuff for Eden, getting across the line, leading up to, reaching out to Eve to request more funding for Eden. So going to do that. And we did decide to remove the vote circle with Dom. So I let him know that we won't be needing him for that and kind of just efficient, a little more efficient, just having two teams, which is Michael and Edgar run the next election. And that's it. So I'll go next in sequence for me, which is Vlad.
Thanks. So in regards to Eden ƒractal, I went through again Dan's proposal. I read all the messages that were in the interim consensus process thread. And in the end, I summarized Dan's proposal and made a little simplified it. And yeah, I think today might be the day when we can vote on the consensus process. But in general, I've been focusing on CTF. We fixed few bugs. There is one more last thing left, like one final bug, and once it's fixed, then it is launched. Fairly excited for that. Hopefully by the end of this week the bug will be fixed and finally the app will be updated. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And Evgeny.
Okay. I missed last Eden ƒractal meeting, so I tell you about what I do for previous because in the last week I take a part in the meeting in under the Russian community, which is not about how earn money on crypto, but about DAO and Web3 and about governance. And I sometimes chatting in those group, so I always tell them about EOS, and they invite me to describe them how governance and DAO is working in EOS. So it was a very big meeting. It took 1 hour. I will show you a link, and I think it's useful for EOS community because I think the most people who is really interested in crypto technology now know about EOS and how DAO and EOS works. I think it's the big biggest what I did for EOS. I add some news and the translations from EOS support to my news channel about EOS, but I think it's not very big. I found a big Russian community. Maybe you know, DAP is, its name is Paycash. I think I don't know how it's. I don't know, is it scam project or not, but they are working about 2 years, maybe 1 year and a half, and they have a biggest Russian community on EOS project because they have 8,000 people in their group, and I tell them, but it's a group only, I think, for Russian speaking, because I never met there any English speaking users. I will show the link to 1 moment. And I am tell them about your support and find the people who write an article about Paycash, and I will put it on EOS support when I make some edition of this article. And I tell about this group to EOS support, and they are EOS support include them to their, I don't know, subscribe. Maybe so they started to send them some news and some tweets. So that's all what have I done. Thank you. Next is Dan, I think.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Evgeny. Awesome contributions. Thank you, everybody. I'll share a bit about what I've been doing to help EOS and ƒractal and so forth now. I tend to be kind of late in preparing these presentations lately because I've been so busy with stuff behind the scenes, so it might be a bit disorganized, but I'll try to make it a good one for you all. So yeah, there is lots of things that I'm doing to help EOS cooperate fractally. So last week I put out a tweet and I wrote an article about EOS Independence Day, and I shared it in a bunch of different channels to help reflect on the last 5 years, pioneering cooperation and so forth. It got some decent engagement. I posted in a bunch of different places, and for whatever reason, the engagement is not showing now, but I don't know, it had like 50 likes and a bunch of retweets and so forth like that. And the article's over here. I also posted it onto Bywire for the first time too. Things aren't loading properly, but I also put a lot of work into just, well, some of it was AI made, but I learned a lot about the AI art making. And then I also put a lot of work into just making it look nice and writing it thoughtfully and so forth to inspire people with EOS and so forth. So that's there. And it's also on Bywire and shared them many places in several communities. I also put out the tweet for Eden Fractal week 14 and week 15 this week to show who participated and who earned and so forth. And also, whenever I share these tweets, I usually share them in like 10 different chats and so forth, so people can see more. So that's what I did for all these. So spreading the word and encouraging people to join. I, as always, hosted the last Eden Fractal meeting and then posted the video on edenfractal.com/videos where people can see all these videos. I'll add Felix's most recent video there too. He uploaded a little bit later, so I'll do that later. And then I've been working a lot on Eden Roadmap this week. So, well, I've been working a lot for the past few weeks, and I'm still not quite done, quite ready to share as I want to. I organize it more and I put it into categories like Q4 of 2022. And then I'm starting to make links for each of these things basically. And then, yes, there's lots of descriptions with headers and so forth. And then there's Q2, 23, 23 and so forth, but more will be coming there soon. There's a lot of exciting initiatives coming for the Eden Roadmap that I'm aiming to share by next week. This week, I also launched Eden Talk, kind of like a soft launch. So I've been working on this for a while with BBS, but basically I think that we can start up a Eden-based social media app with social media, and we can start it up next week or in 2 weeks. I was trying to make a proposal this week, but I'm going to make a proposal whereby will initiate with 25 Eden tokens per week for Eden Talk in accordance to how much reputation people earn on BBS, and BBS has quite a comprehensive system for social media. So I did a lot of testing this week. I put together a little like bio and so forth. Patrick just joined. I'll admit to main session, put Patrick in a room. Hold on one second, please. Sorry about that. Sign to room 2. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I've been just exploring BBS, reading the white paper and learning all about it and so forth. I also put together another page too that I got to include here at edencreators.com/BBS that explains it more /BBS and I made a bit of art, but yeah, basically just testing out all the functions, and I think this will work out really well and be really cool. So I'm excited to share a proposal for this next week and share more, as well as this BBS resource where people can learn about BBS and how it works and so forth, and happy to discuss that. I also worked quite a bit on the votes proposal that Vlad was talking about, and there's lots of messages. This is one screenshot that I took, but I spent a lot of time just going back and forth with Das and James and Vlad and everybody in the chat in the Discord, figuring out the right configuration for that proposal. And I've also been working to launch something called Eden Builders too, which is basically like a collaborative website / collaborative blog empowered by the Eden Interim Consensus process, where people can vote and make profiles, and then basically we can use the website however we want. So this is just kind of an early first draft version. I was trying to get a lot of it out today, but a lot of this was over optimistic. So I'll make proposals. I also want to do a proposal whereby people who make profiles here that are approved by the council get 5 Eden each as well. And then there's lots more things we can do, but this is an example of like a profile page that we can make. I have to fix the text and stuff, but just basically a place where we can all share our contributions for each week, and then people can make their profiles however they want and so forth. So I'll share more details about that soon. Those are coming soon. And then, as Chris was mentioning, I participated in the 11th meeting or the 12th meeting for chief delegates. We passed the bylaws and lots of other good discussions that we've been having. I also hosted the Eden Town Hall, and we had a great conversation there that's published on YouTube. And I also participate and promote Eden and EOS in the Genesis Fractal as well. I usually do the Alien Worlds Fractal, but I couldn't make it this week. And then, yeah, I also spoke at the Helios Twitter Spaces as always each week, and then retweeted, good messages from Patrick, Jesse, and all great people from the community. I've also been working on an article about Ronnie's Pizza, which is what Eric Binder is doing. And then I'm making edits to many different articles, such as Genesis Fractal and Eden Fractal and the events page on edencreators.com. But yeah, I'll wrap it up there now. Cool. So yeah, sorry if that was a bit messy, but I hope you all liked it. Happy to answer any questions or anything. Sorry, I also missed the beginning of Dwayne's, but I think that I caught everything or most of what you're saying too. So does anybody have any questions for anybody or thoughts that you'd like to share? Or should we go on to consensus and so forth?
I'm happy to vote.
Okay, cool. Is everybody ready to vote now? Should we do a 3, 2, 1 countdown or? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I suppose we can do level 5 now. Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, it looks like Dwayne has 3, Vlad has 1, and Chris has 1. And Dwayne voted for Vlad. Vlad voted for Chris, and Chris voted for Dwayne. Would anybody like to share their reasoning for voting for each other?
I voted for Dwayne because I like that he's working with the other communities, and that's in like in the wax community. In the end, I think that's a great way to broaden what we're doing here, like trying to bring in new people. Like ideally, a couple new members into the upcoming Eden election would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'll also add too, I'm interested to hear why Dwayne voted for Vlad and why Vlad voted for Dwayne as well. But part of the reason why I voted for Dwayne is I think Dwayne just does amazing work in general. And I see a lot of times like, well, for one thing, I listen to a lot of your meetings, Dwayne, because either we're in there or I listen to Felix's meetings. And I think you always just bring great attitude and great contributions and say great things, great leadership. And then I see a lot of times you say that you haven't done so much specifically for EOS, so you end up getting a bit of a lower level. But I really appreciate what you do, and that's one of the reasons why I want to give you more respect here. But also, I want to hear why you want to vote for Vlad too, because I also really appreciate Vlad's contributions too, and also I want to hear Vlad's decision as well if we have time and you guys are interested.
Yeah, I voted for Vlad. I've seen the contributions in Discord and getting us the information that we went through last week, kind of condensed for consensus. I think it's super valuable. And then, yeah, I just appreciate all your tools that you're using. I'm like going through one right now, kind of just seeing the ability for me to interact with people on Wax. I'm using your consortium tool, or just going to be doing that today for voting on Wax. So just another step in that. So just appreciative that, there's, that skill set here and that you're always willing to bring those over to other communities. So it makes what I'm doing possible. So I really value that.
For me, reason why I voted for Chris, because he's more focused on EOS. Maybe Dwayne in general, his work has been more impactful, but it's another community. So that's my reason.
Okay, good points. Yeah, it's difficult. I think Vlad and Chris are both doing awesome things, as well as Energy too. So I appreciate what you guys are all doing a lot. And
for consensus, I'd vote for myself. I'd be happier if Vlad got the vote, but I'd do that. And I appreciate the vote. Usually I am down lower for EOS, but yeah, I do get respect on the other Fractally meetings and stuff. So if I'm in a room with you guys next time, I appreciate all the respect, and I do. I think, yeah, bringing it back to what people are doing specifically for this group, I'd vote. Thank you for the respect. I'll take it. But yeah, I'll be specific next time more what I'm doing for this group as well, because I think some of the other participants in this room are doing a bit more.
okay. Okay, cool. Well, that works for me too. And yeah, those are all good points. But I guess we can move on to level 4 now. Is it ready?
Yes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Did you vote, Dwayne?
Sorry, I thought I pressed it.
Okay. Okay, it looks like we have consensus with Vlad for level 4. And we can go to level 3. Is everybody? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. It looks like Dwayne has taken his time to really consider each one.
Yeah,
Very
no,
deeply.
I've had it in there and I pressed it.
Oh, it didn't
I'm in the
go?
rainforest and my keyboard's, I think it's getting sticky. I'll blame it on that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Chris has 4, Evgeny has 1. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those situations when it just doesn't feel fair in general because like Chris is obviously doing amazing work for Eden. And then like also the stuff that Evgeny was talking about, he's doing great work for EO support. And particularly, I didn't know that he had a YouTube channel, Evgeny. And then also the thing you mentioned about the Telegram chat with the Russian community, that seems valuable too. But I especially like the YouTube video from what I just seen of it so far. So I really appreciate that a lot.
When I worked on EOSBs, I made this channel. Maybe I don't remember. So we have 2 channel, and so it's just 2 video, I think, in this channel. I have no good camera, so I always wanted to buy it next week, and started to make a lot of videos, but didn't manage until today. So when I finally will buy it, I think I will have a lot of videos there.
Cool. Sounds great. Looking forward to it. You said you have another channel too with the ESPs that you do?
Yes, I try to find one moment.
Okay, cool.
We started to translate Eve's rents, but I think he finished making them. So, and we finished the translation.
Yeah, I don't think he's made one in quite a while, but those were good though. And so you used to translate those, you said?
Sorry, what did you say?
I was saying that I think he has completed the rants and they were good, but I was just asking for clarification or confirmation. You said that you and the bees used to translate the rants from Eve?
Yes, we translated them in in EOSBs. We choose ourselves what we will do. We translate some reports, articles about EOS, and I think that in EOS we have no big leader like Daniel Larimer or some big guys in our other blockchains, but Dan Larimer and Brandon Bloomer, they did too small. Sorry for my English. Not very often they make a big videos. So when I saw that Eves started to do this, I thought that it's what EOS needed. Famous influencer leader who will talk about EOS, and so I tried to promote EOS rents because I think it was my thought that it's very useful for EOS. I don't know, is it a good idea or not?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't know that you were into video creation too. So that's awesome. I think that video creation is super helpful for EOS and then also communicating with the Russian community as well. That's
I
bringing a lot
hope,
of
but
value.
it's too few people are watching them, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that's true in many EOS channels, even the most popular YouTube channels, like, for example, the EOS Network Foundation, formerly Everything EOS channel, only gets like maybe 400 or 500 views on many videos, and often a lot less, on like 100, 200. So as a community, we have to just grow our distribution and reach wider audiences to help more people understand EOS and Fractally and so forth.
Yeah, I say good job. Like, it's those viewers are just going to increase. So that's a good start for viewership on a YouTube channel. Like, a lot of the successful groups have 40, 50 people in them. So I'm sending you a message. We have a little tech pool, and we've pulled out some people that belong to our groups to get on camera because they wanted a better camera. So I'm going to send you a little EOS gift for your to go towards your camera. It's just a small contribution, but I think, just to support you, to say good job. I think yeah, we've done, and we've done this before. We support our Fractal supports people getting cameras, because I know how much a difference it made to me. So yeah, there you go. Hope it keeps you motivated.
Thank you.
Interesting. Awesome. Thanks, Dwayne.
You should know your EOS account by now, Dan, but is it just Dan? I
Yeah,
can't
just
remember.
Dan. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yep, Janine, have you spoken with Shacruz and Valentin and the other Russian speakers in the Genesis Fractal?
Yes, I know them, and I communicate with them sometimes. We worked with Shacruz in EOS Beast too, and we are in Russian Fractal Telegram chat with Vlad or Valentin and Shacruz. So,
Oh, okay, cool. Are you familiar with the Roy Fractal?
sorry, what?
Are you familiar with the Roy Fractal? Roy Fractal?
Roy, no, I don't understand the idea of its fractal and its group. So I try to learn what they are doing, and I don't understand how it should work. So I decided to not to participate, because maybe it's a good idea, but I don't understand how it can work. So I don't work with them.
Okay. Yeah, I don't understand much about it either yet, but from what I understand, there's another blockchain that's been in existence that's pretty popular, and Shakru's works with this community that works with this blockchain, and they're really interested and excited about it, and they're planning to use the ƒractal method for their governance to some degree, and it's already quite successful. It's actually sometimes bigger than the Genesis ƒractal from what I hear. Last meeting, Shakru said that they had like 35 people there, or something like that. So, and people really enjoyed it apparently. From what I hear from Shakru.
Yes, but maybe you ever heard about in Russian I think 25 years ago there were a very big Ponzi scheme. Sorry, I don't know how it's pronunciation. Schemas, scheme. Ponzi pyramid. Do you understand what I talking about?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ponzi
Yeah, kind
scheme,
of like
Ponzi pyramid.
multi-level marketing and yeah.
And there were in Russian there were a very big Ponzi, and they called MMM, and the leader of those Ponzi, his name was Sergei Mavrodi, and he involved a lot of people. All our country they gave him a lot of money, and of course it's Ponzi was breaking down, and the people lost their money. But after 20 years, he made it again, and I think that Shakru's and Roy is something like that. It's they say that it's not work like this, but I think it's Ponzi, and so while I can't understand how it can exist and not breaking down like other Ponzi, I see that people trying to save their Roy Ponzi, but I think it's impossible. Sorry for my English. It's too difficult subject, so my English is very poor for talking about that.
No, I think you're right on track, and it'll be interesting to see if there's transparency. You know, the promise is, hey, this is a network effect, and yeah, it's Ponzi and multi-level marketing like, but it'll be interesting if they back it up with the transparency that it's not, that it's if funds are redistributed, or if it just goes to the top and it's just another Ponzi. But I do know a lot of those people came from that background of multi-level marketing, and yeah, so I understand where you're coming from. So we're kind of watching it as well to see if is the algorithm changed, is anything changed, or is it the same old kind of scam. But yeah, a lot of those people were in those type of groups. Some of them were more even into like the multi-level marketing for like health products and stuff. So we'll see. But it starts with the group. We'll see if they transform that group into being, you know, valuable to the community.
Yeah, hopefully they will. I mean, the fact that they have the ƒractal process can add value, you know, in addition or outside of whatever their previous value proposition was. And Shakru's is awesome. He's a great guy. So hopefully Shakru's and the Roy people will be able to create a lot of value with it. But thanks for the insight too. I wasn't familiar with any of the backstory, and so I wasn't familiar with any of that like multi-level marketing kind of stuff.
He good guy, so I afraid if I will talk about this.
Welcome back, everyone.
Hello, hello. Hope everyone's doing well.
Hey Bishop, ça va Bishop?
Bien le bonjour.
Bonjour. Bonjour, bonjour.
French
Well,
on here.
sure. Hey, Patrick, glad you could make it. And then also welcome Douglas too. Great to see you here. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello,
Thank you.
Douglas.
Good to be here.
Make a while.
Hey, Patrick, ¿cómo estás?
And Jesse. Hello. Nice to see you. Everyone, I was late. I was fast missing the breakout room, but that was nice.
Missing it or coming into it?
Thank you.
Which was nice to miss it and come like the last 15 or no, it worked well.
Yeah, we have fun.
So did we have 5 in every single group?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we won't have an issue. Yeah, last week we had 2 groups of 4. And so the smart contract will only take like entries of 5. And so we've been using Eden MSIG 111 in times that we have like a group of 4. But since we had 2 groups last week with 4, we had to add an extra EOS account. So we agreed to just do that with James Mart, to add him into one of the groups, since he's a good contributor to the ƒractal. But yeah, it helped. So sweet.
Yep.
I wanted to highlight the thoughtfulness that Dan Sinjo just had at the beginning of the meeting. He took into consideration that in order to have recordings for more than one room, it will be best that he move to another room. And those kind of details are really worthy to me. Thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Jorge. I appreciate your support and recognition, appreciation for that. That was something that I'd be curious if anybody has any other, if anyone has any thoughts about it. Basically, the host, after you make the breakout rooms, has an option to join whichever room that they want. And in most situations, it's like there's a group of 6 and a group of 5. So you pick the group of 5. But in today's situation, there's 3 groups of 4. So I had to make a decision which group to join. And then the first one I clicked was the one that Felix was in. But I know Felix records every meeting, and I appreciate those. I watch those on Felix's channel all the time. And
But
so I asked if I should.
Isn't that an issue of randomness if you're
Yes.
choosing which room you're in?
Yep, it is. And that's why I asked Jorge and Felix and Jesse and Charles in the room. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should stay or go. I mean, either way, there's an issue where it's not totally random because the host always makes a choice. And that's true in every room. It's not so much true, or as the group gets bigger, it gets lower. Like the issue reduces. It's not as big of an issue. But when there's just 3 groups of 4, then it's totally up to the host. And I don't know if there's any way to really truly randomize that. But as Jorge said, the reason why I wound up going to the other room was partially because one room showed there's only 3 people, even though that was a bug. But then also, I do think there's value in making sure we get recordings. And as of right now, I think Felix and I are the only ones who are recording. I encourage everybody else to record too if you want to as well. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jorge. And if anybody has any other thoughts about that, then I'd be happy to hear, because I also do want to, respect the randomness process as much as possible, but also balance that with getting the video and stuff. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense if Felix and I are in different rooms, very often, just because we're both doing videos. So just something to consider, I guess. Also, I saw Lenny had his hands up, and then also I'm curious, Douglas, if you have any thoughts. I know that you only joined, you're a bit later, so you only joined for the past like 10, 20 minutes or something maybe, but I'd be curious if you had any thoughts about this or just thoughts in general that you'd like to share.
I do it very quickly because I honestly lost the thread. I had my hand up, but I took it down. Sorry, Douglas, I jumped in. Flowback. Anyone here have experience with flowback? Have you heard flowback? It's using this Jitsi and doing similar kind of work and similar, but no one have tried. The name got thrown to me just from our Swedish political party. We're discussing about things. And I had a quick look at it, very impressive and similar. But if no one have, then no one here knows. But something we can look at also in future, if they have over recording. Jitsi we know of course, but how is the software around it? But anyway, we don't need to spend time on that now, but that's something I just wanted to check. And otherwise we can have a look at it for another time.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead then and reply to Dan unless somebody wants to follow up on that. I don't really understand what that is, but if you want to share a link in the chat so we can learn. I think like what you're saying about should you be able to jump into a group, I don't have a problem with that at all. I showed up late to this meeting and I wanted to be more towards the procedure of like, I don't want to be involved in the vote or anything like that. But then Felix explained the 5 thing. So, I said, okay, I'll be the 5th guy. So I think that in a philosophical sense, I'm like blown away by just being here for 15 minutes and watching Jorge's all that Jorge's done and using the web thing, at least looking at it. And yeah, that's my general thoughts. Like I'm very impressed and happy to be here and I want to keep coming back and contributing. And also we have the Eden election coming up too. So that's exciting as well. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of sit back and learn more and watch how this is kicking off and continues to grow.
Cool. Sounds great. Thanks so much, Douglas. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and joining. And it's great to see you. I love your contributions and we've had a lot of great time. So it's awesome that you decided to join. And thank you for sharing that. Also what Lenny was talking about, I think was, you mentioned Flowback was an alternative to Jitsi. So is that like an open source video application?
I can't say myself what it is, and I saw now that it's got an SE in the end, but I'm pretty sure it's in English. But for me, the 2 languages is the same. So, but anyway, I'll have a closer look for next time. I just wanted to see if anyone here had tried it. Thanks.
Hey guys, real quick, do we need Douglas to post his consensus from our group too, in order to the contract to function?
No, but I think he did. I'm not sure if I saw that right or not, but this process is still very manual. Like basically what I do is when these get posted, you're able to see everything that's posted on the Eden Fractal. You can pull up the table and then I'm using that as a reference to see what the result was that the consensus reached. And then I put that into MSIG. And then that just gets approved by everyone on the MSIG. So yeah, like everything that we submit on chain is just more for cross-referencing, but then it also kind of backs what we're,
Okay. So we don't need Douglas to post.
Well, I mean,
I will do it anyway.
Consensus.
Learn.
Yeah. If Douglas you're able to, then it'd be appreciated. Just make sure everybody gets consensus and so forth.
And are you referring to the? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. But are you referring to the web app or the Hive, like the Hive post?
The web app, that React app that I sent. Yeah. So we're actually posting on the EOS. Public chain.
You posted Dancing Joy. Perfect. Yes. I posted 2. So.
You got 2 options.
It's very easy. You put the room number, then you put the order of the consensus, and if nothing, level 1 can be blank. Level 1 can be blank. So 3 times the link. Perfect. So no chance to miss it. Huh? Okay. Perfect.
So real quick, I just want to add some thoughts on the I guess the randomization. I think a solution can be, I think we should pass that, like, I guess, responsibility off from time to time for anyone who would be wanting to step up and do that. So I'd be fine with doing that like next week. And then we can do something like also like if somebody else wanted to do it, then we can do some randomization on who gets to like, I guess, host, because you'd have to be the host to create the breakout rooms, I'm assuming. But the thinking there is that I think that would help, because here we're also teaching, allowing somebody else to do the process, like Matt Langston's doing that over now in Fractally. It helps people learn that process so that if they want to host their own fractals though too, then they have the experience of being able to do that. And then that, that better just helps, spread this process. And then Also, I'm keeping track of time, so we're 10 minutes past the first hour. So I'm trying to now kind of observe to see what's the best way to use this time. So I'm thinking, obviously, it's always nice to be able to discuss what just happened. So maybe 10 to 15 minutes. It looks like 15 minutes will probably be the good, like probably a decent time for like post discussion. And then I think then we should use, we need to break up the remaining amount of the hour to talk about what's being proposed, and then vote on those proposals, so that we maintain what we kind of agreed upon last week, which was using the last hour to pitch and talk about proposals, and then actually get the votes done on video within the hour time frame.
Before to let go, Dancing Joy, and to answer to Felix, that was just that we stated last week, just 1 week before, that we have to be committed. So when we say something on last week, the next week we do what we said. That has not to be perfect, but today it's the goal to iterate and choose, let's say, a interim consensus proposal, and move on that, and pivot if it is needed, change something when it is needed. There is no cautious things at the moment. The UNA, it's not clear. The Genesis ƒractal is not clear with the UNA. So we have not to be afraid. We have just to be focused on our ƒractal. So I let the mic to Dan. Sorry to have made a little parenthesis, but that's that.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, Patrick. Although Charles has his hands raised before me, though.
Oh, sorry. Welcome, Charles.
Yeah, so to quickly jump in on the question of having someone around to help go into the groups, record, and things like that. So when I talk to many people in my surroundings about the Eden process and political playoffs, and while we're trying to implement it here locally in the political parties to select representatives, etc., one feedback that I got was, what if in the groups there's someone that is an introvert, what if someone in the groups doesn't express himself very well, etc. The idea I was suggested with was having a neutral party of people ready to help in the elections. So having someone that can come into the groups, help someone in need of expressing himself better, being there to express their ideas better. Also, like we said here today, go in, record, etc. So having the idea of having someone neutral ready to help the groups is a good one, I think, and we're in the process of trying to implement it. So having someone neutral, a body of people ready to help out the elections, being there to help others better express themselves or just support the elections, etc. So very in favor of that, if we can implement it down the line. Next, well, very good topic of the day, the interim process. So I checked all the proposals, etc. My personal opinion is that I just don't like voting. Since I discovered the Eden process, since I discovered what we were able to do with consensus with the Eden process, I never got around to going back to voting. So I've read a lot on the subject, and my personal conclusion is that voting is just too divisive. If you would need to vote on proposals, just going ahead and voting is not the way to go. We're going to have the ƒractal code up and around. We are going to be able to have our council, etc. Not so far down the line. So in my opinion, the interim consensus process needs to be just that, an interim process just for quickly reaching decisions among ourselves. Personally, I found voting divisive. I don't very much like it. I very much prefer to have a council and use the Eden process, for political process for that, and find that it also involves too much time to develop the voting process for votes in regards to just going about it like Tadas proposed initially, which was to I have a small council of people among the most respected members of our consensus process, just quickly reach decisions until we have the full code up and around, and being able to do that much more efficiently. That's just my personal opinion on all that. And you can go ahead, Don.
Cool. Thank you, Charles. Thank you for sharing all those thoughts. Great thinking. So a couple of things. One, I see Tadas also has his hands raised too. So I think Tadas probably has some thoughts related to that. I think voting happens either way, like whether you have a council of only 4 people or 6 people or everybody. I agree that like it's only interim consensus process. It only needs to serve us sufficiently and well enough until we have more infrastructure, more people, so we can do like the ƒractal team structure and so forth. But yeah, I think that it's probably better if everybody can vote rather than just 4 or 6 people can vote, and that's why I made the votes proposal. But also I'm interested to hear what Das thinks and what other people think. And I think that people can enjoy voting, and voting can be really fun and helpful if it's done in a certain way. Like if you do voting like traditional democracies where it's one person, one vote, and all sorts of there's all sorts of moral hazards and bad things going on, then it tends to be not as much fun. But if you have it like in these meetings where everybody's earning the votes just by participating and so forth and taking part in community decisions, then I think it can be really cool. But I'm interested in hearing what do you think about that, Charles, and what everybody thinks. CAC also asked, but what if council members have bad ideas and implement them? Just because you're highly respected doesn't mean that you know what you're doing or make good decisions. That's true. I mean, generally when we aim to allocate respect, we should also try to allocate, like we should try to respect people who have good judgment. So people who will use that good judgment for good proposals, and we'll do the best we can. And that's also one of the reasons why we try to make it fairly difficult to pass proposals. The current proposal that Vlad, I don't know if Vlad posted it yet, but Vlad made like a simplified proposal where basically, if anybody's not familiar, the votes proposal is where you get a vote for each respect token that you earn, basically. And then in order to pass a proposal, you need to have a supermajority over 66%, 66.6% of votes to pass a proposal, and an over 33.3% minimum quorum to pass a proposal. So it's fairly difficult to pass a proposal. And when you're voting or when you're in consensus rooms, just try to, pick people who you think will use good judgment to receive more respect and more votes tokens. Sorry, Jorge, I just figured it might be helpful to just give an overview there in case sorry if I was going too long. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Also, one thing I'll say to Felix too, I think we can make we can share the responsibility for breakout rooms and do co-hosts very easily, so we can test that out now or next week. Happy to do that. And if Charles or if anybody else would like to participate in that as well, then please let it be known. Please let me know. I think that's a good idea. And then also, just one thing I wanted to announce too is that in case people didn't see, Patrick and Nova Crypto also donated an additional 1,000 EOS to the Eden.ƒractal MSIG. So that provides another 10 weeks worth of 100 EOS. So thank you very much, Patrick. He also made a tweet. I'll also see if I can find the tweet and share it and so forth. I encourage everybody to retweet and help spread the word and so forth. But yeah, I'll pass it on to Das. And thanks, Patrick. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so I wanted to, I agree with you that voting happens either way. Like even in a ƒractal white paper, you can find voting. It says that the majority of the council has to agree, has to approve proposals in order to pass them. So basically, ƒractal proposes some form of voting too. So for me, it's just a question of who gets to decide on, like, who gets to vote. Like what Dan's enjoy his proposal, and it allows everyone to vote, but instead it also weights votes, and I think it's less problematic than usual voting systems in that it's still voting weight is based on this decentralized consensus process, and so that makes it a little bit better. Although personally, I thought about another alternative where instead of voting, we use Eden process. So kind of like instead of electing a council based on who earns how much respect, using Eden process to elect the delegates and then them passing proposals. So, but again, then if we are electing delegates again, we would be voting. Unless we could use Eden process to elect proposals themselves, but I'm not sure. So yeah, so a lot of options, but for now, I think everyone agrees that we should first look for something simpler, probably. Yeah, so that's thoughts I wanted to share. Felix, you're probably had your
Okay.
hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Tadas. Okay, yeah, I was just gonna hop in and say I think we need to now delegate the remaining time. Like, so first, I think by just doing the raise of hands in the in the Zoom app, if you have a proposal that you want to pitch, raise it so we can break out we can split the time evenly and then have enough time to vote on those proposals. So yeah, if you're gonna come and propose something, just raise your hand right now on the Zoom.
I'll just like to hear the pitch from both Dan and Tadas regarding the two proposals we are apparently voting today.
Yes, we stated that last week, that we will have a pitch of 2-3 minutes, concise, clear, no ambiguous. So Dan, if you want to make a pitch of your proposal, that would be nice.
Yeah.
We thought that we need to even read all your Google documents. Clear, we will read. I have already read 4 times, but I would be happy if you can do an abstract, and Tadas the same, an abstract. That we can judge, that we can have a good decision between the two proposals, that we can, you know what I mean. So I think that will be a nice continuation.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm trying to capture right now. So if it's just Tadas and Dan, if you guys are proposing, then let's declare that now, just so we can divvy up this. Like, we need to aim to use this hour and like really try to stick to it, because we can't, like, as we progress, like we gotta use the time efficiently. So I think, yeah, so if Tadas and Dan, if you guys have a proposal, we have about, probably 35 minutes. I think we could spend 10 minutes a piece, and then 10 minutes, the remaining 10 minutes to vote. Obviously, like, this is very loose, but let's try to aim to do this all in this next hour, so that I would like to do a proposal, but it's more so of like proposing, like, hey, let's use this as an itinerary, and let's stick this hour of using this like our current vote method. But we'll see if we propose. I'll probably do that next week. We'll see how it turns out this week. So if that's just Tadas and Dan, if anyone else, I guess now would be speak
I
up.
just wanted to say that maybe 10 minutes is too much for each one. Maybe 5 minutes or 4 minutes pitch, and then 10 minutes discussion, and then the voting.
Yes.
Yeah, I meant like 10 minutes and overall, like, pitch and questions, and then
right.
Yeah,
okay.
then to the next proposal, and then we'll vote. So if we want, I'll pull up a timer, and then we'll try to stick to that as best we can. So if it's just Tadas and Dan, we'll lock that in 10 minutes each, and then the remaining time will be to vote.
I just wanted to add that, does it make sense for me to pitch my proposal if me myself might now support more Dan's proposal? Because what I aimed for with my proposal was to create something simple enough to implement, and I thought that having a council was a simpler way. But now it seems that it might be possible to do Dan's votes proposal manually, and that might be simple enough. So, and votes proposal is better in the sense that it allows everyone to vote. So I might actually be in favor of Dan's proposal at this point. But I can still try to pitch it for others if maybe we can maybe we have other opinions.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe Tadas, maybe I don't know. I guess you and Dan can choose on who wants to go first. If it makes more sense for you to go after Dan, and then you can go off of like, oh, okay, these are the things I liked about what he said, but these are what's different with mine that I would also like to be implemented, and then we can have continued discussion, and then yeah, and then we can vote. So if that sounds good, then I think Dan, do you want to go first, or does that work for you too, Tadas?
I'm happy to go either way. I'm happy to speak now, or would you like to speak first, Tadas?
No, go on then.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. First, I'll also briefly mention there's 3 other proposals that I'm planning to make. I was trying to get them prepared before this week, but it makes more sense to focus first on the interim consensus process. But these are proposals that I'm really excited about and interested to hear what people think. I'm going to try to get out like the full written proposal next week. But basically, the 3 proposals, one of them is for a new for a social media app for Eden, basically. So over the past couple of days, or the past several months, I've been working on researching BBS. I've talked about it several times. But over the past couple of days, I set it up at edentalk.com. It's a very basic BBS right now, and I'm going to be making it a lot better and so forth. And I invite everybody to help contribute there or just like explore and so forth. But basically, the proposal I'm going to make is that each week for the next 5 weeks, once the proposal is passed, then then the Eden Fractal will issue 25 Eden Fractal or Eden Respect tokens to people who participate in Eden Talk, the BBS, and that will be with a simple equation that can be calculated manually, whereby BBS has a metric for reputation points that you can only earn by making points and getting upvoted and getting views and stuff. So have it where people can earn a proportional amount of Eden Respect tokens in according to how many respect or reputation Eden Talk tokens they earn on Eden Talk. So that's one idea. And then a second one is also edenbuilders.com, which is it's kind of less evolved, but or .org rather. But it's like it's a collaborative website where people can make profiles. It's still early. I'm going to make it a lot better next week. But I also think that it'd be cool if we do a 5 Eden reward for everybody who makes a good profile, and then the community can decide to pass proposals about who can be enabled to or who can be qualified and approved to make profiles there. So that's another proposal. And then the third proposal is I think it'd be cool to respect Eden election participants. So what if in this upcoming election on October 9th, we have it so everybody who participates in the election gets 5 Eden, layer 1 delegates get 10 Eden, and chief delegates get 25 Eden. This is a way to provide respect, to distribute it more widely and bring together Eden elections and Eden fractals and so forth. So that's kind of a lot there. Jorge said good to hear other proposals, but I suggest that we focus on the matter at hand, which is the interim process. So yeah, I agree. But yeah, I figured those are helpful because then these are proposals I'm really excited about. I think they'll be really helpful. And then also, this is part of the reason why I was designing the votes proposal, because I figured it'd be cool if everybody can vote on, who can be on the Eden Builder site or who can be earning tokens on the Eden Talk and so forth. Because basically the consensus process will need to I guess, whitelist, so to speak, people who can be eligible to earn and so forth. So I figured it'd be cool to have votes where people can vote for that. These are all still fairly early, so if anybody has any ideas or suggestions, then I'd be happy to hear it. But as Jorge said, it's good to focus on the more immediate matter. But I want to put those out there and interested to hear what people think. I see Felix has his hands raised too. Do you want to share anything here, Felix, or yeah?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know, you got like to do with the 5 minutes, like I would go ahead, pitch your proposal,
Sure.
and then use the last 5 minutes for questions, comments from the community. So I mean, like I said, I was gonna I didn't want to interrupt you, so I started the timer, but I don't know.
Okay.
We could reset it if you guys want, or we just keep
Cool.
going with what we have.
I don't think it'll take very long because I already kind of explained it too, and most people have already heard it, I think, as far as how the votes proposal works. So I'll also I'll briefly provide an overview, and then I'll share a couple links too, because Vlad did a great job of summarizing it just yesterday. So in the Discord, if people haven't seen that, and then Vlad also made a proposal on consortium for the implementing the votes proposal. But basically, like I also made a more complex version at edencreators.com/votes so people can learn more details. But Vlad did a great job simplifying it, and I'm working on making a more simplified version. And like I think we should post on IPFS or EO, something like that, BBS, so that it's on chain and everything. But basically, how Vlad explained it is that permit voting only on Wednesday, so people can only vote if they're at this meeting in like the hour or two after. I think we can make it 2 hours after the breakout rooms end, where people can vote. Potentially, the council can vote to approve asynchronous voting in certain situations, but for now, we'll just say people can only vote during the meetings on Wednesdays. Secondly, there needs to be at least a 33.3% minimum quorum, which means that there's a threshold where out of all the votes tokens, there needs to be at least 33%, at least 1/3 of those tokens to pass a proposal that need to be voting. And once again, votes tokens are earned in equal proportion to Eden respect tokens. So currently there's like 6,000 or 7,000 Eden respect tokens, and more are earned every week by participating in these meetings. And so at least a decent amount of people, 1/3 of people, or 1/3 of the votes would need to vote in order to pass a proposal. And then by the end of the meeting, the yes or no option has to receive at least 66.67% of the total votes used in the poll to pass. So at least 2/3 plus one of all the votes need to vote yes to approve something, and there needs to be 33% minimum quorum, 33.3. And then also proposal is only eligible to pass if it's been submitted at least 7 days ago, or I think like at least by the last meeting, which is like 6 days and 21 hours, something like that. But that's basically it, though. It just voting with tokens that you earn in proportion to Eden tokens, with a minimum quorum of 33.3% and a approval rate of 66.67%, and people can only vote during the meetings. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope that explained it pretty well.
Yeah, I do have a question. You meant 33.3% of all participants that ever came to here, or of all the voting power? And also, what's a vote? A vote is a Eden token, or is another token?
Yeah. So the 33.3% is of all the votes tokens. And so currently, if you go to so the vote token, it's a separate token, but it's not currently created. The votes token, it's created in the same proportion to the Eden respect token, but unlike the Eden respect token, the vote token will never be tradable. It's never transferable. So people can't buy or sell votes. You could check out the distribution of Eden tokens on the link that I just shared in the chat. There's currently 6,252 Eden tokens that have been distributed through these events, and you can see how much Eden people have received, how much Eden respect people have received. So basically, eventually I think we'll make an on-chain version of the votes token, but for now we can just calculate either on a spreadsheet, like a Google spreadsheet, and do it manually, or we could use what Vlad suggested, is that we can use the Eden token on consortium right now, because it's the same amount, and it's not currently tradable either. So it essentially is like a votes token, but we just need to make sure that if and when the Eden token does become tradable, then we have a votes token that's not tradable.
So it's a copy of the Eden token?
Yes. It's a
So
copy of, oh, I'm sorry.
Of the Eden token is just not tradable, right?
Yes, exactly. And right now the Eden token isn't tradable either, but it's a copy that's never tradable.
Okay, and so when you say 33.3% is of all vote token ever created?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the proposal that I made and shared last week, it was for the past 26 weeks. But I think currently, like, there's been some discussion about whether that should be longer or shorter. And I think for the purpose of this interim consensus process, we can just say of all votes tokens, and then later we can qualify that and say, you know, over past 26 weeks or past 13 weeks. I see Tadas is maybe not sure about that too. So I'm happy to go a different way, but I think that I think either way right now, if we want to just pass this something quickly, then we're only at 17 weeks, and so we can just say all the tokens to keep it simple. But that should probably be modified in the future. There's also discussion that James Moore and Tada shared too, where it gets naturally diluted. But currently, I suppose the proposal as it stands could just be, I don't know, either 26 weeks or just all tokens in total. Or if Tadas had any thoughts, we could also modify it too. It's currently in development as well.
Yeah. So basically, you earn this vote token by participating to those meetings. That's like that you earn this vote token. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. And there's also the possibility.
There is
too,
no other way. There is no other way. You have to deserve this vote token, so you have to participate. It's like this that you earn this vote token, that you have more vote token. The more you participate, the more vote token you have also.
Yes, the more you participate, and then also the higher level you get. So if you participate and you
Higher
consistently
level.
get, level 4, 5, 6, and you'll
Yes.
get more than if you got level 1, 2, or 3. And then currently the only way to earn votes tokens is to participate in his meetings. There is possibilities that we could expand that. Like, for example, the proposals I made, if we do wind up if we do wind up starting to use the Eden Talk BBS website, or issuing tokens to people who participate in Eden elections, or for whatever other initiatives, then we could decide to also issue votes tokens for that as well. But that would be requiring a proposal, and we could play it by ear. We could either keep it so you can only earn votes tokens by participating in these meetings, or if we want with future proposals, then we could make other ways that people can earn votes tokens as well.
So if we were to implement your proposal today, 33.3% of all Eden ever created will be equal to approximately equal to the top 4 contributors that are currently holding Eden. We have you with 10.8%, Felix with 10%, Vlad with 8%, that's 28%, Taras with 7.5%, that's 35% already for only 4 people. So how would your proposal prevent from the formation of a plutocracy? A respectocracy?
So it needs, in addition to the 33% minimum quorum, it also needs 66.7% approval. So if, for example, the top 5 people wanted to do something, but then the next, say, 5 people after that, or 10 people after that, in terms of how much respect they have, don't want to do it, then they could potentially make it so that it can't be passed unless more people approve. I didn't explain that very elegantly, but there needs to be a 66.7% approval, basically. So that's an additional way to make sure that it's not just the top 5 people who can decide, but if many people in the community vote no, then it doesn't get passed as well. And of course, too, these can also be changed. Like if we do think it's better to have a 75% 75% approval rating or something like that, then that's also an option.
But what 66% approval from all the community, or from the 33% that constitutes the quorum?
The 66% is from the people who vote. So the 33.3% is the total quorum. So that is, there's currently 6,200 Eden tokens. So the total minimum amount of tokens would be something like 2,060 or something like that you need to have to pass a proposal. But then out of those 2,060 who vote, or 3,000 or whatever, then you need to have 67% vote for yes, basically, to pass a proposal.
So according to current statistics, we could have quorum with only the top 4 people, which will already make for 35% of all Eden created ever. And from those 4 people, it will suffice that 3 of them voted, correct?
Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, so according to current Eden distribution, we will have quorum with only the top 4 contributors, because they already amount for 35% of all Eden ever created. And the proposal will be passed with 3 of those 4 people approving, correct?
Yeah, I think that might be right. I'm not sure. I'm trying to calculate the numbers right now, but I believe so. If just the 4 top people voted in terms of how much respect they have, and then 3 of them voted, then there'd be I guess it depends because different people have different amounts, but it would have to be over 66.7% of the votes between those 3. I would hope that there's not just 4 people who are voting. And I think that being that we're at these meetings and, right now there's 12 people here. I really doubt it would just be 4 people voting and everybody just sitting there and letting 4 people vote unless they agreed with the decision. If somebody disagreed or felt otherwise, then they could also use their voting power. And there's lots of people so the top 5 people have between 11 and 7% of the total votes or
That's-
total respect.
That's
But
almost 40% of the whole Eden distribution.
right. So I mean, and there is some there is like Pareto either way, so to speak. And the other proposal that we were working with was whereby 4 to 6 people could make decisions unilaterally without other people being able to voice their opinion, like formally. I mean, people could always voice their opinion, but 4 to 6 people would have all the formal governance power. Whereas this, it widens it because there are many people who have 5% or 4% or 3% of the tokens. And so say if the one person who has 8% of the tokens says yes, but then somebody who has 5% and 3% of the tokens says no, then those balance each other out.
Okay, I have no more questions. Does anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah, so I don't know, Tadas, were you wanting to go, or like, were you gonna ask a question? I was gonna, I guess, add comments overall, but I guess I would like to hear your proposal as well. But
me too, I could add some comments regarding Dan's proposal, and I would too argue that while I like Dan's proposal, I would argue for not passing it yet, simply because there is no written version currently of the proposal that Dan is speaking about. The currently written version is the way Dan currently explained it is a bit different from the older version. So as I understand, he hasn't updated yet. And in general, I don't like the idea of passing proposals which are not written in the written form yet.
Yeah,
okay,
the proposal's been evolving. I think Vlad provided a great summary yesterday, and he simplified it. I think that mine, based upon feedback last week, I think that the way I wrote it originally was a bit too complex, and I was aiming to make a more refined version of it and post it this week, but I didn't get the chance yet. But Vlad did a good job of summarizing it, but it's in Telegram message, and it's not like I think it'd be helpful to write it and also have it on like very clearly written, and then have it on like IPFS or BBS or some database, something like that, so we're exactly sure what we're agreeing to. I think that perhaps we could like it might be helpful because I know a lot of people do want to make a proposal soon, and I appreciate that, and I agree too, or get a process soon. I think what might be a good way to go forward is like to informally like approve it, like say like we improved the intent, like this is something that we're agreeing to do, but we'll actually implement it on chain next week once we write it, as long as we write it well, like something like that, like a preliminary kind of like just agreement might be a good idea. I'm open to other suggestions, but I also agree with what Tadas is saying too, that like right now the proposal, it's still been evolving a bit, so it seems like it's mostly there, but it certainly is helpful to have it written out so we know exactly what we're agreeing to. And right now that's kind of written out, but not totally.
yeah, some of the comments that I wanted to add is I just think right now we need to, I think we should just be using this voting process to do simple things that we're voting on. So I think the most basic way is like, let's vote on what we want to, what we're going to, like, what can we all collectively agree on that we're going to do our best to give respect the most to for like certain contributions. So for example, like if this is of importance to us, right, of working out these proposals, then like we could say, or like the Eden election's coming up, right? So we can make that a priority number one. We're going to be like, okay, we know the Eden election's coming up next week. We're going to highly respect the turnout over there. And if we all agree to that, then that's kind of, it's a soft rule. We don't have to, like, it's still subjective of how we choose to vote, but it's our soft rule that we as a community reached, and kind of gives us a guide of like, hey, we're wanting to respect these contributions the most, because this is what was proposed and agreed upon in the community. And then what I think would be nice is with like Tadas and Dan's proposals is I don't think we need to, I don't think we should implement or like accept anything until it's like actually ready to be implemented. But also I think we should be doing tests on the side. So if this is something that we want to continue to build out, let's just do it. My thinking right now is like, if anyone who's wanting to vote that's participating in here, who's willing to spend 2 hours, and basically if we're voting in the last 10 minutes of the 2 hours, anyone who's sticking around long enough, we're not big enough to where I'm going to say like your vote is like you shouldn't have a vote. But I think this could also be good though too. So right now it's just everyone's vote is one. Anyone who's committed enough to stay long enough for the meeting, if it means that much, they stay the time to vote for that. But then we can also, you can compare it to like, you know, whatever spreadsheet that you would end up building to show like what would be actually implemented with these votes tokens. I just think that would probably be the best way, because then we can start to see the examples like, oh, well, if we had implemented Dan's proposal, this is how the turnout for this proposal would have been this week, versus everyone who just came and voted, this is the result. And if there's any differences, and then that helps us open like more I don't know, I guess discussion around like the different possibilities of which way do we want it to go with actually cementing a little bit more of like a harder proposal when we're dealing with tokens and voting weight and stuff like that. But I don't know, those are just some comments and thoughts of mine. Hope that makes sense.
One more time, yeah, that makes sense. But one more time, we discussed too much. We were already committed last week. We have made 3 hours on the last week to arrive to the conclusion that we have to iterate this week and choose something. That has not to be perfect. We can always change. For what I have read, the proposal of Tadas or the proposal of Dancing Joy, that's not perfect. And we can always improve. This is not, there will never be a point where we can say, oh, now it's perfect, now we vote. We have just to go with what we have, and that will be implemented. There are specifications in the proposal of Dancing Joy, how that should be, not how it should be implemented, but what is the goal? What are the specifications? Then me, a developer, or Vlad, that is also a developer. We have several developers. We can implement what it is specified into the proposal of Dancing Joy, for example, because we have clear specification. That's not just a proposal with a vote token and the hidden respect token, and that's all. There is specification that I have not seen in the other proposal. So if we mesh that all together, we have something great. So myself, personally, for where I am now at this time, I would say I vote in favor of the proposal of Dan, and we can move on. We can always improve for sure. No one has made proposal into this hidden fractal currently, and this is a lot of work by Dancing Joy. He has passed a lot of hours to write that. We have discussed that on the Hidden Town Hall on last Sunday. We have discussed that maybe last week also, 5 hours plus the Town Hall, 12 hours I have passed into my week to be focused on that, and I am not the only one. So I don't want to make a 3 hour more and come at the conclusion that we cannot go with something. We have to iterate, and imagine that someone is seeing that publicly. These videos are public also. They will see also that we are a group, that we can iterate and take some commitment on what we said, not just speak and not commit. That would be very sad, I would say.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Patrick. So a couple points. First, Felix, I think that anybody can vote, like currently with that system whereby one person, one vote, or whatever other system to determine like what we'll value during the events. Although of course that's all subjective and people are free to make their own opinion about what they value. But we can certainly do subjective things like that, and nothing holding us back from doing that now or whenever. I think one of the differences here is that this formal governance process, when we do it, then we can do bigger things. Like, for example, the proposals I mentioned are about issuing new Eden tokens. And I don't think it would be right to issue new Eden tokens without a more formally defined governance process. But I think that issuing new Eden tokens can be very helpful for the community. And so I think it's a big priority to get a formal consensus process that we agree that can have jurisdiction, so to speak, over making new Eden tokens and issuing new respect and so forth. I think that, and I hear what Patrick is saying, and I appreciate that. We have been talking about it for a while. So I would be happy to do kind of like an informal in principle vote to approve the votes proposal formally next week, where we define it over this week and we write it and then we can vote on consortium or with the spreadsheet next week. And basically we could just agree that we agree with the concept and the general idea, and then we'll just put it down in specific language. And as long as everybody still agrees next week, then we can approve it and then have that formal governance process. I think that might be a good way to do it, whereby we achieve both what Tadas and myself were saying about having it written down specifically, but then also agree to what Patrick was saying about getting it done quickly. CAC, that said we commit today on the principle. Yeah, so basically what Patrick was saying, he said we can commit today on the principle. So yeah, we can commit today on the principle and then formally implement next week, which is a suggestion which I think is probably best. And especially too with the upcoming Eden election, like it would be nice if we can get this formal governance process approved before or by next week, because then when we go into the Eden election, then we can have lots of cool proposals and a lot more empowerment for community members to make proposals and these initiatives and so forth. It'll look a lot better for Eden ƒractal and the Eden community if we have it implemented formally by next week. But yeah, and then also Jorge, I saw, asked, he said he has to leave in 15 minutes. Can we hear Tadas's pitch and make a decision before that? So Tadas, would you like to share your pitch or share your thoughts? I'm also interested, Tadas, if you have any thoughts about the idea of kind of like informally in principle going with the votes proposal for now, but then actually writing it down concretely and then approving it formally next week. So yeah, I suppose I'll pass on to Tadas, or if anybody else wants to speak, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, regarding informally passing, well, I guess we could have verbal agreement that we commit to this or that proposal, but then we still will have to decide on the details of the proposal as we are implementing it. So yeah, I don't think that fully solves the problem. Anyway, so I will maybe introduce my proposal. So I will try to summarize it as well in a simple terms. So basically maybe I will share my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a formal version of a proposal where I try to make it as unambiguous and as clear as possible, but it can be explained in simpler terms. So basically you have an averaging formula which calculates the average level of a member over 6 weeks, and it weights the latest meeting more. And so you basically take top 6 members of a fractal according to this formula, and you say that these members constitute a council, and you require 4 out of these 6 council members to vote yes to approve a proposal. Yeah, and so everything else in this proposal is about defining where this proposal would be posted. So basically they would be posted, they would have to be published in a written form on a public blockchain, and a corresponding consortium poll would have to be created where this proposal would be voted on, and yeah, and every Eden token holder can vote on these proposals, and at least one council member has to vote on this proposal for it to become eligible. And once it becomes eligible, once it receives support, actually, once it receives support from at least one council member, that is, once at least one council member votes for this proposal in a consortium poll, then at least 3 days and one Eden Fractal breakout room session has to pass before it can be passed by the rest of the council. So this rule is to make sure that council is not passing proposals without community notice. And yeah, I think that's the general overview. I could go into more details, but I think that's enough for, I mean, enough for, maybe anyone has some questions.
This proposal, Tadas, that I have read also, I think it's already a kinda of white paper that's not really an abstract of what is the intent. I respect your proposal. Huh? I am very respectful of your work. That's not that the problem. I try to be very objective. That's when you read that, it's very technical. That's not really an abstract. And when I was reading the proposal of Dancing Joy, the intent is here because the intent is not on chain. What is only on chain is the action and the delivery. So the intent will be never on chain, the art, the soul, and the mind that you have into your art. So when I was reading the proposal of Tadas, of Dancing Joy, I was arriving to the conclusion, wow, perfect. It takes into account the consortium of 6 or 7 that we have already stated that could be not good to have only a consortium. That's also good when we have the entire community. We need I understand at the beginning we have to iterate fast and all. So I think your proposal, Tadas, plus the proposal of Dan, if you connect this proposal together without to say mesh, but connect, you will find some intersection and we can move on. So I would say with all the work that you have made, that's why I gave you 450 euros to you and also to Jorge 450 euros also to each of you because you did a fantastic job. So I pay attention to what you did and I think we can take that in account with the proposal of Dan and we have something, I would say, very inclusive for all the fractal. And I want to say something here. We don't have to wait on the fruition of the Fractally Genesis 1. However, that I pay attention to what they are doing there, as Dancing Joy also, as every of us, or I hope. But we have to be very independent into this hidden fractal because we want to create our loosely coupled things. We want to take in account the fractal paradigm. That's what matters. That's what matters. So I think where we are now, I think after 4 months, soon October 23rd will be 4 months, there will be a video, an update with Dancing Joy and Felix Ruiz, interview by myself about this fractal. So we have to show something, to show metrics. So why not today put our confidence, let's say, yeah, confidence vote on that and iterate then. Otherwise, we are preaching every week the same narrative, or we wait 1 week more, or there will be the hidden election now on October 8th. Okay, or soon there will be an earthquake, there will be a storm. Okay, so we will never moving. So I want to be committed. That doesn't mean, once again, that doesn't mean that I want to push and to stress. That's just because I am here as Felix, as all the people that are here since the beginning. We are always sometimes repeating the same thing. So today that will be more a confident vote, and then the next week could be the continuation. Now we put something into the voter and say, okay, we are confident, we are a good team, Eden Fractal, we want to continue. So let's take an interim. It's not frozen, it's an interim consensus proposal. So no
So-
risk.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Patrick. Two things I wanted to ask is one, I just had the idea inspired by Jorge's questions that I think if we go with the votes proposal, which I would like to do, I really appreciate Tadas's proposal too, but I do like just the fact that everybody can vote. Although I also really appreciate how Tadas clearly laid it out and left it unambiguous, which currently the votes proposal isn't as unambiguous. But based on Jorge's feedback, and Tadas mentioned something too in the Eden Discord chat recently, we want to make proposals difficult to pass. I think it might be better rather than a 66.7% approval rate to have like a 75% approval rate to make sure that people are more on board. Because currently, as Jorge said, I think only if 3 out of the 4 top people voted for something, then that could potentially pass something where we have 75%. I don't think it's a big deal either way, but it is nice just having like a greater percent democracy, more agreement. So that might be something to consider. It's a new idea, and I don't think it's necessary to figure out now. We could always change it later, but I think maybe a 75% approval rate might be better than 66.7%. And then secondly, I just wanted to ask Tadas, well, I see your hands up for, I guess, was the response to Patrick, but I'm just wondering, Tadas, if it's up to you, then what would you propose or suggest that we do going forward?
Sorry, what was the last question then?
I was asking, what do you, if it was up to you, then what would you suggest that we do going forward? What do you think is the best plan of action for the interim consensus process proposal? How do you think we should do it?
I see a couple of options. So first, I think if we pass votes proposal, or maybe even any other proposal, I like the idea. And if you want to pass them quickly, I like the idea suggested by Marco of expiration for proposals. So if we don't reapprove proposals, then we say that they expire after a certain amount of time. And yeah, so I would add that both to my proposal and to Dan's proposal. And I have other ideas of how to update Dan's proposal, but yeah, and anyway, I guess a lot of people in this community feel that we are stuck, but we who develop these proposals, I think Dan will agree, I don't feel stuck. I think we created a lot of progress. Like, these proposals are much better than what we had in the beginning. So I see a lot of progress in this, and we don't, in my mind, I wouldn't pass any proposals yet, and I haven't seen any reason expressed for why we should have these proposals passed now, apart from this community needs to show that it's progressing. Like, we are progressing by creating these proposals, and unless you have something urgent to achieve with this consensus process, I wouldn't vote for any consensus process. Of course, I'm not against this community voting right now and passing proposals right now, but personally, I won't vote for any proposal today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Maybe.
That's about vote of confidence. Today we have to show a vote of confidence. Yeah. That doesn't. You are not clear, Tadas. On one way, you say we are not to vote today, and you finish by stating maybe we have to show something that we are doing something. Yeah, show something that today we are voting, we are raising a vote of confidence. And I think you say, Tadas, that your proposal, you have to continue your proposal and that will be better. But I think your proposal and the proposal of Dan could be connected, unified, and we have something great at the end. So today, I want to show a vote of confidence here that we finish on something good into this video. I agree, we are doing great job. That's not that the problem, but we are not committed. We said something last week, and today we will finish by stating, oh no, we vote nothing. Jorge, I will let you go, or Dance Enjoy about that.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I want to highlight that we do have an interim consensus proposal right now, which is what Felix proposed last week, and we are using it for today's voting. So it's, and we are showing advance. So I'm stressing this because I want to bring some tranquility to you, Patrick, and to say that last week we did an advance. We established an interim consensus protocol. Felix did, and today we are basically doing or trying to do an improvement on those proposals. As of now, I'm on Tada's side that none of these proposals are ready, and they are not ready to be passed. So we should keep the current interim consensus protocol, which is what Felix stated last week. On Dan's proposal, I have the issue that I just mentioned, which is that the numbers are based on Eden accumulation, which I mean in respect accumulation, which is Pareto distributed. So that proposal will tend to amplify inequality in voting power. That's the one reason I wouldn't accept Dan's proposal as of today. And on Tara's proposal, the one thing I like Tara's proposal very much. The one thing I don't like is the fixed number. To say that only 6 people can vote, it's okay for a community of 30 people, which is what we are. But it's not okay for a community of 100 people or 200 people. So that number will have to be modified from being a fixed number to being a percentage of the whole community. But I think that we are iterating, and another round of iteration should be should be convenient, yes, and that we are not stuck. We have a consensus, and this meeting today has been much more fluent and much more rich than last meeting. So I think we are doing good, and it's probably for the best of the community to not pass any proposal right now and to continue with the process, with the protocol that we have, which is Felix. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge, for sharing that perspective and the tranquility as well, and support and so forth. Very much appreciate it. A couple comments. So one, I mean, you make great points. I think to some extent, Pareto is unavoidable and not necessarily a bad thing. We also have a softer form of Pareto because it's Fibonacci distributed, where it's 66% rather than 80%, more like 66-33 rather than 80-20. And in fact, because we've had smaller meetings, rooms of 4 and 5 often, it's much less Pareto distributed than would otherwise be if there were groups of 6 or with some other system. And it's also, people can only earn the tokens in the votes proposal by participating in the meetings too, which is also a big difference from traditional Pareto systems. But yeah, I also agree with what you're talking about with Das's proposal, that like, that's one of the things that I see with an issue. Like, what happens if we do get 50 people who show up next week, or 60 people or something like that? Like, and something that Das mentioned when you brought this point previously was like, it's difficult to make a percentage of who can vote out of the council, because it's like, if somebody joined once, then are they on the council? So that's one of the reasons why the votes proposal, I think it's more scale invariant, whereby you measure who can vote by how many votes tokens they've earned. And then, yeah, I'd also, so I think that Jorge made good points, and something that I think would be really helpful is if we met to discuss this. I mean, we've been discussing it here and then also in the Eden Discord. If you're available to Das at any point during this meeting or during this week to meet and just like discuss these things and get into the details, I think that'd be awesome. If other people are also interested in participating in the discussion, that'd be cool too. But especially to Das, because we've been going back and forth about it, and we could probably get a lot done just talking about it. If we met for like an hour or something like that, then I think that would be great. And then as far as the timeliness, I agree. I don't think that there needs to be an additional proposal passed right now beyond what we have. But I do think that there is some urgency to passing the proposal now, or not now, but next week rather, because I do think that the other proposals I mentioned are rather timely, and I think it would be really cool and helpful for the community if we could have a process to implement those. So for one, I mentioned the example of issuing Eden tokens to participants in the October 9th Eden election. I think that'd be a good opportunity for the Eden Fractal and Eden community. We can promote the Eden Fractal and spread the word out, and also promote the Eden election at the same time, and also get a greater distribution of Eden tokens with people who are interested in that system. So I think that's a good proposal. I'm interested to hear what we think, but we need like a more formal governance process to actually implement that. And being that we only have one more week before then, I think if we could implement the interim consensus process by next week, then that would be cool. It would allow us to do that kind of thing. I'd be interested if people have thoughts about that in general to that proposal, as well as like the Eden talk and so forth. I think in general, if we're able to pass the votes proposal or some updated interim consensus process that enables us to issue tokens, and if we could do that by next week, then that would provide some benefits. So I'm interested to hear.
That will be not
what
next week. That will be
Why
not
is that?
next week. I say that will be not next week. That's not realistic. If you want to wait until all is perfect or all is ready, I was reading that all has to be ready. What does it mean, all has to be ready? That will be never ready. Oh, sorry, that was in private, that is not in public. So that will be never ready. That will be never perfect. That will be never an end. So we have to begin. We have to begin somewhere. So don't say that next week that will be okay. You said that already last week.
Patrick,
And
I think
2 weeks ago also, 3 weeks ago also, we spent a lot of time into those meetings. For me today, in my consulting, soon 3 hours in this call. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Patrick. For one thing, you don't have to join and take off time from your work. I of course really appreciate you joining, but also you don't need to.
I
If
was
you're busy with other
joining
things.
because we stated last week that we will commit to something, and Jorge was also stating the same. Felix was also stating the same. We were all agreeing last week, and today we change our
We do have a consensus already, but we have a consensus protocol, which is Felix.
Yeah. So next week, perfect. Okay, we will see. But I sure already that we will say one thing more that we cannot accept, because we have to wait on Eden on EOS, or we have to wait on Fractally, or we have to wait on, I don't know, you know?
I just think we need a use case. Like I think that's the current problem we're having. Like we're voting on something we don't even know what we're going to use it for. So Dan brought up the idea of using the Eden election, right? So I think we can vote on something like that, but take into consideration all these other proposals and see how it turn out. The thing is, until we're voting on something that actually means something, I don't think we're not going to adopt anything, because we don't even know what we're using this stuff for. We're just, so I think we need to do things in steps. And so we did the first step right now with the video.
Yeah.
Now,
can you answer to that? Have you take time as me to read in detail the proposal of Dancing Joy? Yes or no? Have you take time to read the proposal of Dancing Joy?
Not in full.
Voila. So how you can speak if you have not read in detail the proposal of someone?
Well, why do I need to read in detail? Tell me why I need to read in detail.
Because it's very good.
But who said that this is of importance? That's the thing. We have not agreed. I don't even know why we're voting on this, to be honest. Like we need to have a use case. And if you're telling me I need to spend my time to
if you have not read, how
I read Vlad's overall summary. But at the end of the day, why are we like, what are we okay, let's say we adopt this process right now. Okay, now what? What are we using it for?
There is use case in.
There is no use case right now, though. So why are we voting on something we have no idea what the use case is for?
And make use case. I will do also. For
So
sure.
let me jump in real quick. And first off, we
That's
should try to
incredible.
respect
That's
each other.
incredible.
No,
No, that's
we
not
should try to
okay
respect
for
each
me.
other, not
Sorry.
speaking each other over. But Felix, there are three
Incredible.
proposals that I mentioned earlier that I think are immediate use cases. And Patrick, I don't understand why you're upset about this.
There
Sorry,
are use cases in the
what I think we
proposal
need
of
to do
dancing.
though is like we need to these use cases, what we would use it for. Then let's use these proposals as like, okay, now these are the three different proposals. We're gonna vote on whatever. Let's come up with a use case, and then we can see the different proposals, and then we can vote on which proposal we like the best. This use case can be something simple, like what you suggested with the Eden, right? That's something that's different. That's something that we're doing where we're taking the smart contract and we're deploying Eden outside of just reaching consensus here, that we should have some type of agreement on. So at the most basic level, we have it where we would vote here on video, but then we can also see the other proposals and see how that would turn out. The thing is, I have no idea how this stuff would work out until we actually do it. So I'm fine with accepting Dan's, but let's do it on a term of like 2 weeks or something, or for a certain use case. But right now, like if we're voting on something that's going to be like very permanent, I don't get why we're doing this. We're just going around like voting on something we don't even know what we're going to use it for yet.
I am very sorry. I am very not okay with something. You have people that are saying we are not moving on, and you were part of that, Felix. And you are not reading the proposal of Dan, where there are 1 to n, one to many use cases. There are specifications in it. If you read the proposal, really, you read the proposal, you will see the use cases. You will see the use cases. And to answer to the question, the use cases have to be implemented. They are not yet implemented. We are just making the specification. There are specifications in the Dan proposal. So maybe pay attention, read a little bit more this proposal. You will arrive to the conclusion there are use cases in this proposal. So that's why I am a little bit sorry, a little bit upset, because we say something on the last week, and not only on the last week, already before, that we want to commit and to go forward and accept something that has not to be perfect. Jorge was also of this mind. So I think today, once again, we will finish this call, and again, the same result at the end. And maybe next week
I'd like
also.
to I'd like to just jump in and just clarify something. So the proposals that I'm making that aren't formally ready, but I'm happy to explain them and answer any questions. I think I can explain them all, and they're all pretty simple to explain within like a minute or two. Basically, what I'm proposing to do is mint something like 10% of the total Eden supply for these three initiatives, something like 600 new Eden tokens, something like 400 new Eden tokens for participants in the Eden election, 125 Eden tokens for a new social media application called Eden Talk, where people can make posts and earn respect, and then 125 Eden tokens for people to make profiles in Eden builders. So these are like specific things that I think we need an interim consensus process that we agree upon to do to mint these tokens. And then I think we could do that next week. Like we could potentially, if the DOS is able to meet and we're able to get this solidified where everybody's concerns are met, then we can have a proposal we all agree on that can be capable of minting new tokens and doing big actions like that. And then we could implement that next week. And then at the same time, also throughout this week, we could review the proposals that I'm making, these three proposals, as well as any other proposals that anybody else wants. And then within the next week or two, we could have like these big decisions being made where like now Eden has a social media app. Now Eden is also rewarding people who are participating in elections with Eden Respect. And we also have the builders thing too. So I'm happy to go into more detail about that, but these are like specific things I think we could do in the next week or two that could have a really big effect and that do need this interim consensus process.
So who's turn
now
for
it's
speak?
a week or two. Before that was a week, now it's a week or two.
These proposals were in existence before, Patrick. So these are new, and these are now something that I think we could do in a week or two. I never thought we could do those previously. Now they're at the point where they're pretty much ready. But Jorge made a good point too. We've been going back and forth. I'll lower my hand. I know CAC and Jorge have his hands up, and I don't know if Felix wants to add anything as well.
Yeah, so real quick, I think we have to have a use case that we're gonna use this, what we're gonna vote on. we're still so small. We can still like, I don't know. My feeling is like we could still fork if people don't like what's going on. So that's where right now, let's just start simple and like rather than focusing so much on like what process are we going to use on like how we're going to take votes, let's find something that we actually want to vote on, and then we come up with the process, and then all these proposals that Dan and Tadas have worked on can be implemented and showcased, because now we actually have a use case, we're actually using it, rather than we're voting on something that we don't know what we're going to be using it for. Like for example, if we want to, what you're saying, mint the Eden tokens, then from there it's like, okay, like whatever that proposal is, like that's going to be a big change. And so we would have the 3 different proposals. I mean, I don't know. I really don't like, I guess I'm also kind of just like also just confused on like what we're doing here. Cause like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, if we accept this, what changes? I don't get what actually changes. Like,
I think basically accepting a proposal, like one way to look at it is it enables the community to issue new respect tokens in different ways. There's other purposes too, but specifically like the 3 proposals that I'm making after we get the interim consensus process defined is to issue new respect to reward people for doing different things. And currently, I don't think that we have a process that can really do that. But like, if we want to decide, let's reward people who participate in Eden elections with Eden tokens, then that's something that I think we should have this process in place for, so that we can do that and agree to it and agree this is a process that can be used to implement and create new respect tokens for different purposes.
Yeah,
Is Chris
and I guess
done, finally?
just my last comments on that is
sorry.
I just think that I think we just have to start with the use case and then figure out how are we going to choose to vote on that. That may be the best way to implement, rather than accepting one proposal. I don't know, accepting one proposal and then that's what we're using to accept bigger proposals, because then that makes this a big, I mean, this is obviously a big proposal, but I don't know. I want to see things in steps. It's just confusing. There's a lot here that we're adopting, and we should just do it in steps. Like I said, I think next step is like, is consortium what we want to use? Okay, let's implement that. And then, okay, what tokens are we going to be using? Then, okay, now we vote if we're going to use Eden tokens or votes, and then all the extra thresholds, but we should be adopting them week by week in steps, not the full blown proposal all at once. I don't think we're going to get anywhere, because we're going to be too hesitant on, there's going to be people too hesitant, not understanding. Like, I know Patrick wants me to read through all of them, but I'm sorry, like I'm busy. I've got other things I got to do as well. So let's do it in steps for the community's sake though, too. Cause I'm not the only one that's also can just devote 100% of my time to this Eden Fractal. So, I mean, we just got to be real with things. Let's do things in small steps. Dan and Tadas have worked a ton. I'm not saying throw away those. I'm saying let's find ways to implement what they're proposing in steps. But next step is how, other than obviously it's not probably convenient to like have to sit through a whole meeting to vote. The next thing would be like, do we think consortium is the best place to do it? Okay, let's make that official. Like, when are we going to set up? And then like, what would be the next steps for consortium? Well, the next steps would be like, well, how soon, like, what is the time frame of like, when do we need to implement a proposal that we're voting on? When is the deadline on when votes need to be casted? And then we keep it simple, 1-to-1, but then we can also talk about like, okay, well, how much is everyone's vote worth? But those are the steps I think we should be going in, rather than accepting a grand proposal all at once. Like, I don't know. I think we're just going to continue to keep going around in circles.
No one said to accept a proposal all at once. That's not logical. That's never logical. And we know that we have to do the things step by step, consortium, all those things are details. That's the implementation part. Now I was just speaking about make a vote of confidence, that we are confident to go with the proposal that we have supposed to have read at least something. So I am confident with what I have read. I know that there are room for improvement. Like Jorge said, there is room for improvement. That Dan Sinjoy also said on his proposal. There are things to improve, Tadas also. So, but Okay, I think you mix the things. You don't see. What I want to say here is that we make a precedent that we say, okay, we are committed, we want to move on, we have taken account the proposals. Yeah, baby, we can move on. There is no something tangent, because there is no risk in that. We can always improve. Dan, you know that yourself.
Yep.
And Tadas also, and Roger, you are a physicist, you know that also. But if we are every week pushing the same narrative, all what you said now.
Thanks, Patrick, and
we have
thanks,
already.
Felix. But I think we should probably respect
Sorry.
CAC and Jorge, who have been having their hands raised for a long time.
Yeah, I've mostly just been listening to the circus that is the Eden Fractal, taking in what everybody's saying. But I just wanted to give my opinion on voting. When it comes to voting, I am not a fan of weighted voting. I think if the only place that voting is going to take place is during the meeting, I think it should be one person, one vote. But then figuring out what the quorum should be, maybe that can be a percentage of the average number of participants over the past however long. But then that system could be gamed as well, and I fully understand that, but so can all these other proposals. So that's all I wanted to say right now. I mean, I had other stuff to say, but I'm not going to say it, but I don't like weighted voting. Let me just leave it at that.
I want to say that I do feel Patrick's frustration that we said something last week that we were going to do, and all of a sudden it feels like we are changing direction. Last week I was also frustrated that we didn't seem to have any advance, but then Felix came and proposed this really easy interim consensus protocol, which is what we are doing right now, 10 minutes for each proposal, and then the community votes by raising hands. And I felt that an advance. And I also feel that both Dan's and Tara's proposals are not ready yet. They are not, I don't feel like they are ready to be accepted or implemented. Still, I do think that the pace of innovation is the most important thing. So I'm willing to submit both Dan's and Tara's proposals right now to voting according to Felix and current consensus proposals. And if one of them passes, then we just begin to iterate over them. They are not ready. Yes, I will change several things to Dan's proposals, and I'll change also some things to Tara's, whatever they are. But we also don't lose much by voting right now, and keep iterating next week on what we already voted. What do you guys think about it? So I'll suggest that we use Felix or current consensus proposals to vote. If right now we are, to vote right now to whether to accept or not accept any of these proposals, and it can be none of them. We can reject both of them. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, that's great. So let's say in 2 weeks.
No,
Nicholas,
all
what do
right.
you
So let's just do the
I-
vote right now. So for Dan, let's do the hand raise via the app.
Incredible.
And
That's what I said before.
but it's
And
it's
now
gonna be
Felix
no.
said
But
the
the
same.
thing is, my whole thing of why I'm frustrated. First off, like this is 30 minutes past when we were supposed to end and when we're supposed to vote. We need to have structure. And next week, if that's what we want,
Voila.
I'm gonna start to implement. Hey guys, this is what we said. 10 minutes, like that wasn't hard in stone, so I haven't stood up to that. But that's what let's vote on. That's a third proposal right there. If we don't vote on proposals by the end of the hour, everything is just a no. So now there's a time where we need to get everything ready before the end of the hour. And if we don't, then nothing gets proposed. My thing is, let's do it in steps though. Like what's the next step to get us closer to implementing in full what Dan and taught us? There are next steps. Both of them are talking about consortium. So that's the next step. Let's vote on that.
Yeah,
Like that's what should
exactly.
become, that's what I think should be coming to propose. Like, yes, we can talk about in full, like the more details with Dan and stuff, but then I think what Dan and Tadas should come as proposals though would be like, okay, well, the first step to getting us closer to having the whole thing implemented is we're voting on consortium. Those are both in both their proposals. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
think let's go ahead and vote right now just to
Perfect.
continue to like set a precedent. So everyone who wants
Voila.
to vote yes for Dan's proposal, raise your hand via
Yeah.
Zoom.
By the way, these votes don't have to be mutually exclusive. I can vote for Dan's proposal and also vote for Tara's proposal if I'm just
sure
in favor of anything, or I can vote for none. Okay.
Okay.
So it's
Before
like
to
it's a
that
show of confidence, right? Or
it's a
because
vote of
we're not-
confidence. We say that.
yeah.
We say that since
Push
last
for
week.
more.
Douglas Butner, you were not in. I am here since the beginning, so that's why I am a little bit sorry today, a little bit upset.
Smile, my friend. Hey.
Jorge, I am not here only for the yeah baby thing and give you money. So I am here because I want to.
Baby, Patrick. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, so I guess real quick, Dan.
Oh, sorry.
If
I am just stating
yes,
before
no
I
on,
am
but
raising my
if
hand.
we vote yes, what is being accepted today? If you can just give a quick complete sentence so we know like a yes is saying that today with yes, this is what is being implemented.
I don't know.
I just want to say something before we raise our.
So then there should be nothing that we're voting on. It should be a no. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say is like whatever we vote yes or no, it should be clear. Like
Yeah,
I made it clear last week that we're voting on video.
I would like to know. I would like to know if people are in favor of the votes proposal. Because I think the best route forward is if Tadas and I can meet this week, and then Tadas was open to the votes proposal, and Patrick likes it. I like it, so I would like to do the votes proposal, and I'd like to refine it this week, and then have a thing that we can implement next week for the votes proposal. And I'd be happy if people are improving that in competence in general, but we actually get the proposal done this week. I think that would be cool. That's how I'd like to do it. And I'd also like to talk about the other proposals as well too. But was something you're saying there to us?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we can. I'm sure we can find the time next. I should be able to find the time next week to meet with you and try to finalize your votes proposal.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much, Jess. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and then beyond that, I agree with what Jorge is saying. I don't think that either are ready to like officially vote on them right now, but I'd be happy to hear like in confidence votes or just a general signal of what people think and so forth. If you guys want to vote on that with the hand raised and stuff right now. I see Douglas also raised his hand as well as Patrick.
I have raised my hand also first. So what I want to say, all what you state now, it's what I have stated since 1 hour, that we do a vote of confidence. I have said that already. So I am not the devil advocate here. Let me put the cap of the devil advocate. And to Jorge, let me speak until the end when I say I have never interrupted you. So what I want to say today, the proposal that we have into the hands currently are project brief. It's a project brief. The proposal of Dan Sinjoy is a project brief. The proposal of Tadas is a project brief. It's the name that we say in project management, project brief. And it is not yet the implementation, certainly not. So we are moving on and we are just stating today, committed to make a vote of confidence. And we can vote for the two proposals if we love it, only one of them, that's open to you. So myself, I am very happy with the both proposals. I think now it's clear and we will live on something positive, because last week we were committed to do what we say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Christian Chris, you are fantastic with your voice and fuck and all. That's very fantastic.
I didn't say fuck.
Yeah, in the public chat you said fuck. I don't know why am I here.
All right, Douglas,
but I said for
Patrick, let's calm down.
Listen, God damn it, y'all have been interrupting each other. Let me say something for once. I've been quiet most of this damn meeting. I said for fuck's sakes in the chat. Now, I'm not going to, but I can share your private chats with me. You use fuck all the time, so you have no room to speak.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
As a note, people who watch on YouTube can't see the chat, so we don't need to bring up matters in the chat publicly on the video when it's not necessary or helpful. But anyway, I think Douglas has hands up. Douglas also had some cool sound going on too, like some oming or something. It sounded like.
And by the way, I want just to
Oh.
say, I apologize to be a bastard to Jorge and Christian Chris and everyone, Felix also. I am a bastard, but at least we are doing exactly what we said. So
are we
great.
voting right now for?
Yeah,
Felix
right
said?
now. Right now.
Okay, so the question is, what are we voting on though? Is there any implement, like if, like we've been talking about voting on like a vote of confidence or voting on implementation? Vote of confidence, I might, okay, that doesn't really, like, I get, that doesn't really do much. All that's just saying is like, I mean, I guess anyone who opposes Dan's or Tada's things, speak up, but I think everyone's in sync. Like, we like the ideas. My main thing is like, let's do it in steps of voting on implementing things in steps though.
Okay.
Okay, how about voting right now?
I think Douglas is trying to say something, so let's give Douglas a chance to speak.
Okay, yeah, so I was just saying, number one, I agree philosophically with what Felix saying. Like, it's almost worthless to spend too much time like voting on things which are too abstract. But the only way to render these really good abstract things into reality is by saying, okay, we need this, and then looking at what comes back and like bouncing off of that. So I agree. I do want to say in specifics to the proposal, I like them both and I want to see them both improved. Specifically, I see an opportunity for Dan's proposal to explore, instead of creating an alternative vote token, but to instead use the existing Eden token that's being paid out with a staking mechanism, so that you can just take all of this, all of these tokens that we already have, you give them a use case. If you want to vote on a proposal, you stake this token at this contract address. You have to remember to unstake it to get it back. So that takes this out of the virtual supply. You have the other economic opportunity that a person could buy a bunch of tokens from the market if they want to advance something forward. But that way you do give a little bit more vote to the people who would be more of the ones on the council. Now, the danger there, without going too long form, is you start to build up power in individuals. So I think it makes more sense to do a trailing council meeting, but that doesn't mean that you have to ignore the entire other sort of voting mechanism. But the reality of how people communicate is it does devolve into these type of long form conversations that we have, where specific types of personalities tend to clash. In those respects, it's better for these small groups, as Dan and all these people have written about. So I would 100% be down for that as well. But as far as the issue that we're dealing with right now, as far as communication and moving forward with something actionable, I stand 100% behind Felix's idea. Like, let's just pick little things and say, hey, this is something small we're going to do to move forward. And in order to do that, I believe it should be completely written out. As well as we could explore, if Patrick wants to look into this, because he brought it up, the ability to track who's actually read something. So you could even mark on a smart contract, just I read it, and that way you have your reputation on the line, because you said that you read this, right? And now you're able to vote on it. So I'm sorry for going too long. I have a lot of ideas, but I wanted to get those few out there and say I do support both of these proposals. And I think we would all feel better if we picked something to have like a real vote before we leave here as well. And thank you for letting me talk so long.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Douglas.
Thank you very much, Douglas. And vote of confidence means a lot, because it's about testifying your intent, by the way. So for the people that say that doesn't matter, vote of confidence, I don't know what you are doing. So I'm just stating it's very important. Dan, yes. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so thanks, Patrick. And yeah, thanks, Douglas. No worries at all for taking longer. Really appreciate you sharing all your thoughts and a lot of great ideas. you think very deeply about these things, and that's awesome and very much appreciated. A couple of notes. One, I do think it's important that the votes tokens are non-transferable. So currently, I think we can vote with Eden tokens because they're non-transferable as is, but eventually Eden tokens will be transferable, and we want votes tokens to be non-transferable, I think, for several reasons. One is liability, because if they're transferable, then that makes it look like a security because people can buy voting power and stuff like that. And then secondly, and perhaps more importantly, but I think they're both important, is just the fact that it protects the community from people who are actually participating in meetings have voting power. If you make it so that votes tokens are tradable, or you use tradable Eden tokens, then somebody could sell their tokens. Somebody who's very rich and wealthy could buy them and then have a lot of undue influence in the community, even though they don't know or care with the community. So that's one of the reasons why I think that's really important, that votes tokens are untradeable. But there's also a lot of great ideas there about, you know, staking in different options and so forth that I think are very helpful for different purposes. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that in general. But I do think that having votes tokens as untradeable, or at least Eden tokens that are untradeable currently, is important. And then secondly, too, I see Felix and Jorge have their hands raised. I'm happy if you guys want to continue to do the discussion about like passing proposals, but I think it would be most helpful, I'm sorry, I'm speaking too quickly. I'm happy if you guys want to do the votes of confidence about proposals that we agree with and so forth, then that can be helpful. But I also agree with what Felix was saying. Like, I don't think that that's necessary. I think in general, most people are in agreement and support the proposal, and they've already expressed that. And it's just a matter of just picking individually what it is. And so I think it'd be most useful to discuss actual proposals that we want to make with it. And I would love to hear people's thoughts about both the Eden election proposal and the Eden talk proposal. I'm happy to discuss this. I think that these are two things that we could do next week once the proposal is done, and that this could be really big for the community, but we have a limited time frame because the Eden election is coming up on the 9th. And so if we wait too long, then the opportunity will pass. So to briefly summarize the Eden election proposal, basically that everybody who participates in the Eden election will receive 5 Eden tokens. Layer 1 delegates will receive 10 Eden tokens, and chief delegates will receive 25 Eden tokens. It's pretty simple. Total, I mean, and there's some specific details that we could discuss, but if we have 70 people who participate, that would be minting approximately 400 Eden tokens, which is approximately the same amount that we mint every week here. But it's a way to respect people who are contributing in Eden elections, and it's a fairly simple decision we can make. It's a fairly simple proposal, but I think it'd probably be in the benefit of the community. So there's also the Eden talk proposal I'm curious to hear thoughts about, but I suppose I'll leave it at that to keep it simple for now. So I'd love to hear if anybody has any thoughts about this proposal, if you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, or anything should be different about it.
I think we should not talk about new things. I think we should focus on the matter at hand, which is, are we voting for Dance or Taras or none of them? Or maybe we can just, without accepting none of them totally, just, yeah, give a vote of confidence on which of those two proposals we prefer to iterate further. How about that? But we do need to take a decision because the meeting has turned as noisy as last one, and we were doing pretty well until a few minutes ago.
Yeah, so I think where we're at right now is I think it's safe to say that both proposals are rejected just because, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's where we're at. So the only thing I think, if we want to vote on something, regardless if we choose yes or no, like it doesn't really, but I mean, my thing is like, let's do an implementation vote right now. If no vote is done or concluded by the end of the post hour of breakout rooms, then all proposals are rejected for that week. If we accept this, I'll do a better job moderating next week of saying, hey guys, we got 10 minutes. If nothing is voted on, we're just going to assume, like right now, like I would say it's safe to assume that proposals are rejected for this week because we're 40 minutes past the hour of the breakout rooms, even though that wasn't, I guess, a hard, that wasn't stated last week.
Just by the way, the proposal that I made gives 2 hours after the breakout rooms to pass proposals. I think in many cases that's helpful not to have an hour rush. We can have a 2-hour discussion after the breakout rooms to discuss things. So
this is a perfect example though, right? So if we implement what I'm proposing right now, because I think we need to do it in an hour, right? To try to get us to be like a little bit more disciplined with time. if you propose something in the future, then that would be like, hey, I'm proposing to extend from the hour to 2 hours. And then that's an easy yes, no vote. And then the community can reach consensus on that. But that's how I think things should be done in steps like that. So if you guys are cool, I think we should take a vote on the implementation vote. Like I said, regardless, next week, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to hold it to next week. If we don't vote on anything in an hour, like I'm probably going to start leaving an hour after the meeting because we need to be disciplined, guys. We have to break out the structure and respect everyone's time. Not everyone has free time. People are sacrificing time by being here. So if we want to vote on that, let's do that right now. If not, like I said, I'm still going to implement it next week.
I agree. Let's vote, say Douglas, and the others also. So let's go now.
So we are
Okay,
voting.
so raise your hand if
What's the sentence?
Okay, so raise your hand if no vote is done. Raise your hand if you accept this proposal. So if no vote is done or concluded by the end of the post hour of the breakout rooms, then all proposals are rejected for that week.
Perfect.
Okay, I see CAC, he has his hand raised virtually. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of 8. Does that get us where we need to be?
It's 6 out of 8. Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's 75%.
All right, so
And
that
then
puts
Cynthia,
pressure
you
on
have
us
not
next
raised your
week.
hand.
If we don't organize well enough, and like I said, I'll do my best next week. I'm going to interrupt, so I'm apologizing in advance to not be rude, but just to be strict on time. Like if someone's going beyond the amount of time allocated, I'm just going to interrupt and be like letting you guys know, like, hey, time is running out. We got 10 minutes left till the end of the hour. If we don't get vote in, then everything's a no for this week.
I'd like to.
I said that 1 hour ago.
I'd like to take the opportunity to advocate against this because I think that given.
No. We already reached consensus. That we voted 6 out of 8. We're not changing. We're not going back.
So, well, I mean, it's possible. So first off, most people who participate in the meetings aren't currently here. We have 8 people, but my point here is basically, I think that next week is a really big week for Eden Fractal, and I don't think that we should limit ourselves. If we're able to pass a great interim consensus process an hour and 15 minutes into the meeting next week, then I think that's okay. And I don't think we should wait an additional week just because we agreed to do an hour. And so I would.
Yeah, but the thing is, if we
I'll
don't
call
set
another
a hard
vote.
timeline, then we're gonna always continue to extend. The thing is, like, it would have been
So
yes, I was fine with that this week. Like, hey, if we extend a little bit past the hour, that's fine. We're 47 minutes past the hour on top of the hour of the post breakout room. And I tried to organize things at the beginning. I said, Dan, come up with your proposal, pitch your proposal. And I put the timer for 10 minutes, but you spent like the first 3 to 4 minutes talking about other proposals, and then it threw everything off. And so we need to have a set deadline, and we did reach consensus here though too.
So let's make this a deadline 2 hours.
6 of 8 is consensus now.
Let's make this set deadline 2 hours, because then we'll have time to make these decisions.
No, not 2 hours, Dan. Really, when you do a PhD dissertation, you have 40 minutes. 40 minutes for the work of 5 years of research in scientific terms. You don't need more than 10 minutes to explain the proposal of 1 week or let's say 1 month of work.
There's a lot of proposals. I mean, we could potentially pass 4 proposals next week, and these could be really big for the community. So I don't think there's any advantageousness to having it where we restrict ourselves to an hour, whereby we could have several good proposals after 2 hours. I'm still advocating for a deadline. And I think in general, 2 hours is better. I mean, because in many cases you do have it where new people come and you want to attend to new people and ask people how they did it and so forth. And so having a 1 hour deadline restricts that.
Okay, then let's respect our process and vote right now. If we agree to extend the timeline from 1 hour to 2 hours, as Dan is proposing, before doing the voting. So how about that, Felix? You make the sentence and we do the voting.
Okay. All right. All right. So raise your hand if you vote yes to extend the time from 1 hour post breakout room to 2 hours.
Yep. I'll also say too, well, actually, first I'll just wait and encourage everybody to raise your hands, because I do think that this is really in the benefit of the community to not restrict people for next week to make all decisions within an hour, because we have a lot of big decisions to make next week.
That's why I raised my hand.
Thank you, Patrick.
However, that I am in favor of the 6 of 8 that we have voted now. Respect the vote.
But I'll also add too, I don't particularly, I don't think that the process that we're doing right now is a entirely respectable process, because most people aren't here. Like, for example, Tadas wasn't at the meeting last week when people agreed by 8 of 11 vote to do the raising the hand. Tadas is a major contributor. I also didn't agree to this process last week either. So I don't think that this is a binding vote. And I think next week, no matter what we decide here, if we have a great proposal and it's an hour and 15 minutes in, then we should not be restrictive to do it. But at the same time, I completely appreciate your desire to want to get this done within an hour. And so I'm completely on board with trying to get as much done within the first hour as well. But I also won't respect it if you say we can't pass a proposal because it's been an hour and 20 minutes, even if that proposal is really helpful for the community.
Well, and that's fine. And yeah, that's cool. I'm glad, like, look, we're approaching this how it is. We'll see. I'm just saying, I'm probably going to leave an hour after meeting next week, because I do want to limit this. Like, this is too much. 3 hours is too long. 1 hour for breakout rooms, 1 hour for post discussion / voting. But regardless, if this is not like, I think this is the way we're doing things, because like we're voting on it right now, right? But we also have to be cautious too, like things can be forked if we don't respect somewhat of process. I get what you're saying, Dan. Like, yes, it would be nice if others are here to vote, but the thing is, people are leaving because we don't have a set time frame. If we have a set time frame, then people will be like, okay, I can commit to stay here for an hour. But if we're like, okay, 2 hours, well, nobody's here. We're almost 2 hours into it. People usually leave after the first hour. So that's why it's good that we have a stricter time. And if we don't want to respect what we just reached consensus here as a community who was committed enough to stay long enough to vote, then, like I said, forks are potentially an option. I'm putting that out there just as a reminder. Like, let's be cautious though of like trying to say, well, I wouldn't respect if someone goes and extends an hour. I voted for an hour. I'm leaving after an hour next week. Because we reached consensus here too.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing your thoughts, Felix. One technical detail that's important in my proposal: people don't have to stay the full 2 hours to make a vote. You could make a vote within the first 15 minutes and you can leave. So if you have other things to do after an hour, then of course feel free. Although I appreciate when people are here to work with it, and I respect like the idea that you're sharing, but I don't think it's should be considered that these votes that we're making right now are like 100% concrete and so forth. So I very much respect and appreciate like everybody here for working together and to try to evolve this consensus process and try to start simple and so forth. And I respect that and appreciate that. But I think next week's really big, and I'm working on this. Like, I'm going to be here at all the meetings for as long as needed, and I'm working at this well over full time to make Eden ƒractal as successful as possible. And I have some really exciting proposals I'm excited to share next week. And if we wind up taking an hour and 20 minutes to get through it,
that's what I encourage you. Implement them in steps. I know you have a lot of visions, but let's start baby steps. What do you want to be adopted next week that can be implemented that week? Like, if we vote yes, the next week we're doing it. But if you come again with like all these ideas, it's just going to go nowhere, and it's going to be a no.
Degrees.
That's just my like, you know, I guess advice.
Also, we cannot
Dan Sinjo is so open mind that
next week. Dan,
was it Jorge?
Yeah, I am saying that we also cannot. For example, today in this, the people that remain here, we reached consensus that. The time
6
frame
of 8.
Making the proposal and doing the voting will be 1 hour. That was the consensus. Then you decided to oppose the consensus because you wanted to extend to 2 hours. Then we voted on 2 hours, and it didn't pass. So the current consensus is 1 hour. And now we are saying that you have many ideas for the next week, so you would like to extend that, but we cannot change the protocol because one single individual for one single week needs to do it. So if you have many ideas for next week, then bring the best one, the really best one, and pitch it within the next 1 hour. As I said before, for a PhD dissertation thesis, you only have 40 minutes, and that's a work of 5 years. So for sure, your best idea can be presented in a 10-minute speech.
Exactly. I have something to say to Dan Sinjoy. I love you, man. You are open mind. I love you, Felix. Also, I love you all here. But yeah, we need a protocol. I agree with Jorge. Otherwise, we are 3 hours, 30. I have to do all my consulting in my night now. And to answer to Dan, you were stating before, if you couldn't join today, you have not to join. Sorry, it's not an answer. Because I am since the beginning, and you see who is staying now into this room: Jorge, Felix, Bishop, shout out to him, Lenny, Douglas that is joining us, Christian Chris is a fidel joiner into this. So, and the others that would have something to understand today, they have left. Jesse Jaffe, others that would have just after the breakout room a clear discussion about what we are doing today. We have waited too much to say, but at least now we have reached 6 of 8. So respect that 6 of 8. That's already something, and we have to move. Otherwise, sorry, I don't see what we are all. Yeah, we have to respect. Respect is also respect the protocol. Respect the time of the people, because the time has value. The time has value. The time that I have not here, I can do, like Felix said already. There was a controversial discussion a couple of weeks ago when he was stating, yeah, the time is value. We have to value the time. I understand now also. That's very important. We are not all the same situation. Some of us are freelancing. Others are totally focused on this hidden fractal. Myself, I am not totally focused, but I try to be focused the most that I can. And we have to respect the protocol. Otherwise, 3 hours, 3 hours 30, and we are repeating always the same things. To be honest, sometimes we are repeating a lot of time the same things. So something new maybe. Today we have 6 of 8. So, I'm sorry to be a bastard. But I am a wisdom bastard, by the way. I try to push the things in the good way. I hope.
Okay.
All the
Cool.
respect.
Yes,
Okay.
Something like to add. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Patrick, and for everybody for being here too. Felix mentioned the idea of forking, and that's a possibility and an advantage of blockchain in general, that people do have forkability and succession and so forth. But I've heard other people mention that in the past too. And it's good to have this as a backup option if we need to, but really we're going to be much stronger together and working together much better. So I appreciate everybody working together to help. And I also encourage everybody to do as much as possible to work together without splitting up or so forth. And we have some minor disagreements here, but we're making a lot of progress. And I think that next week and the coming weeks, like, we're going to make a huge amount of progress and be totally different conversations. I'm sorry it feels like I'm sorry it feels like it's not moving to you or it's stagnating. I don't get that sense at all. Like I feel like we're moving really fast and we're doing really good. But yeah, I would just say, like, there's that book that Dan Laram has recommended several times called Blueprint: The Evolutionary Origins of Cooperation, something like that. And it talks about how studies of, like, communities that stick together tend to thrive much more, and communities that overcome their differences and so forth are much more powerful. The whole 1 + 1 = 3. So I encourage everybody. I feel like the forking discussion has come up more than necessary. I mean, it's good to have a backup plan, but really that's not something we want to do at all for anybody's benefit. So thanks, everybody. And yeah, I appreciate it. And then I suppose we could wrap this up pretty soon too. We've been going for a while, and then I'm going to be preparing these proposals in much more concreteness and so forth for next week. I'm looking forward to sharing with y'all. And I'm also going to reach out to Das to meet with him too. So hopefully we'll have proposals that are ready to go and easily to be voted on, and then we can agree on a process and so forth next week.
You can maybe wrapping up on stating what was the result today. After all this discussion, what is the result today? You have already forget.
Well, we had a good time.
But see,
we all learned a
I
lot.
can make a point though here. So the result here, the positive result was we voted 6 to 8 to use the
Voilà,
hour,
Dan,
the
that you
post
should
hour.
say.
And so like Dan, to address the forking thing, the only reason I bring that up is because like I get it. Like I feel like you're like a strickler to like want it, and you know, Douglas kind of has hinted at that too, right? You guys like there is something that's nice about having a formal process of it being official on a blockchain, but we're just getting started. There's going to be some informalities here, and that's what we're doing. If we want a formal process, let's do it, but let's do it in steps. And so, and as long as we can, you know, as long as we work together like that, then I don't think there will be a problem with the fork. The only reason I mentioned the fork though is because like, you know, I get what you're saying. Like you don't like feel like the whole voice, like the full community was involved in this vote that just happened. But at the end of the day, we're trying to progress every single week. This is just what happened. And I just think it's for the best of the community that we stick to what we just voted on. It helps I don't think anyone's gonna have an issue, especially the ones who weren't here to even vote, because part of the reason why this got implemented in an hour benefits those people that weren't here when we took the vote, because now they'll be like, okay, well, as long as I stay in within an hour, I can vote. But again, like I said, I really I would like to pass something that you've been working on, Dan, but I think it needs to be like, probably next step is like, if you think where we need to be doing votes is on consortium, make that the proposal for next week. The next week's proposal is like, let's use consortium instead. And then maybe you can add a little bit more. That's like, okay, like ideally the proposal timeline for consortium is on this time, but that is a yes, no implementation though too. So that's where I mean, like we need to do it in steps. Like first consortium, then like, okay, well now what are the rules around consortium and so on and so forth. And then we can slowly build until we get to implementing something like votes.
Well, I mean, the votes proposal, I feel like we could do it much faster, rather than taking it 1 week at a time to get each variable. Like basically, Vlad summarized 4 points here, and I think that basically we just write this up more articulately, and then vote on that. Basically, like maybe add one sentence, like, but basically, Vlad just wrote this pretty quickly. But we can just write it, put it in a neat format, and then we could vote on that and have it all done next week. I'm curious what you think about that, Felix. I mean, it's saying, I don't know if you wrote consortium, but we were writing consortium in there, and then those are the parameters. It's very simple. I don't think it'd be advantageous to vote each one of these individually over the next 4 weeks, because then we'd be discussing it. But if we could just vote basically these 4 parameters all at once, then we'd be done with it and we'd have it, and then we can improve it later. But it's pretty simple to prove, I think. You have thoughts about that?
Yeah, so the reason I still think it needs to be in steps, because every single point can be a yes, no, or variations added or to it, right? And so, and if we're doing this votes weekly, then we're able to start to really think about these features that we're wanting. Like I said, right now, I was really confused of like, okay, if we say yes to this, like what changes, like what are we going to be using this for? And then until we actually use it, we're going to see how good the proposal is. And so if we're voting every single week on small little steps, had we been doing that since like, you know, a month ago when we first started talking about this, you know, we probably would be further along, but you're saying like it'd be easier to accept it. I just don't think so. I'm going to vote no for anything that's like a grand proposal. I want things in steps. And that's my viewpoint. I don't know if others share that same viewpoint, but that's just my opinion based off the experience that we just had in this past month. That's what the results are
Felix, Dan, can I just complement what Felix said? I totally agree. We have to go step by step, baby steps, little iterations. Clearly, that's okay, but
Patrick,
we have to be committed.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it seems like you're contradicting yourself, because you're saying pass the proposal, but then you're saying don't pass the proposal because you're agreeing with Felix.
I want to be clear. I want to be clear. Today we have voted 6 of 8 on a confidence intent vote of what we mean about this proposal. That's what I would want to see happening today. So I am very happy at the end. But I stated that since 1 hour we have to do that. And now we know that this proposal have to be implemented. That's just project brief, your proposal. That also is a project brief that has to be studied, discussed with Vlad, the developer, and all this stuff. And about to put the things on chain, We can also put the things into a spreadsheet. That's okay. If the things are coming with good intent, commitment, that could be in a spreadsheet. That's okay. And later on, that could be on chain. I am not contradicting. I am just stating that last week, at the same hour as now, we were finishing by stating, Amen, Amen. We will have something this week. And hopefully we have committed something. So thank you, Felix, for that at the end, we committed and we raise our hand and we say 6 of 8, our vote of confidence. Otherwise, sorry. It's not against you. It is not against you. It's just, I think, into the generally speaking, there is no Dan, there is not Felix, there is not a competition. We are an entire hidden fractal. We have to reach consensus together, not only into the breakout room, also into the main room. As stated Douglas Butner, that said, let's vote. And yeah, we have vote. At least we are finishing this video, this meeting today with a result. When I say result, for me, that's mean what's the result of today of all this meeting? 6 of 8. So I am happy on that.
Okay, so I'd like to respond to Felix's point about doing it step by step. I don't think that is in the benefit of the community, because I think that like this discussion about interim consensus process, it's helpful to explore this, but also, as we can see, like many people are tired of it. We've been talking about it for a while, and there's lots of other proposals. There's opportunity costs. So the longer that we take to implement a interim consensus process that the community agrees upon, the less time that we have to make other proposals, being that the Eden election is coming up on October 9th. I've also got a meeting with Eva Rose on October 6th or October 5th with the chief delegates, and I'd like to share with Eve that we passed an interim consensus process and that we are starting to use the Eden Talk social media application and rewarding Eden tokens for that. And we're rewarding Eden tokens to everybody who participated in the Eden election, and that will make the Eden community and Eden Fractal look very good. If we wait till next week and we say, okay, let's just voting on consortium, then we don't have any of that. It doesn't make the community look great. I can go to Eve and I could say, well, we voted on using consortium and we're not using the Eden Talk social media application, and we're not doing more than that. Like, so there's a time of urgency to get it done. And it doesn't make sense to just vote on one thing at a time. Sure, we could vote on one thing at a time at the next meeting, I guess. But like these things, it's a pretty simple proposal. There's 4 points. There's vote during the meeting, have to have 33% of votes, have to have 67% of votes, and has to be 7-day delay. So like, we want to do this soon. I don't want to be talking about this again in a month without having passed it, or with only having passed half of it, because it doesn't really do anything if you only pass half of it. So we should just think about this and then aim to pass the proposal next week that has like these 4 elements, basically.
Exactly.
Do you agree?
But I put into the chat, yes, the proposal has to be implemented. I say implemented step by step. That's yes, but the proposal can be already showed to ENF, to whoever. I have a video with you on October 23rd. I hope that the video will be not just to say, you are welcome into Eden Fractal, that's fantastic, there is a lot of respect that we have already made. Now that will be more to show what we have made, to show a result. We have a good proposal, we have those 4 steps, as you said. This is a project brief. It's a project brief, we can showcase that. And the implementation come after. Are you agreeing with that, that the implementation steps of the proposal have to be made carefully? That's not just that's come not like that. You have to implement that, and you need time for a developer. There is Vlad.
It doesn't require any
you mean
development
there is
time.
no development needed or interface needed?
Yeah, there's no development. We can use the consortium interface with the current Eden tokens because those are not currently tradable, and those are currently live. It's working and so forth. So those essentially are vote tokens. And so, yes, I agree we need to implement it carefully, but we've been doing that for the past month now. And now we should just implement it and not do step by step. Like, we could do step by step on some things, but there's only so much you can break apart things into steps before it becomes like I don't know, redundant or
Yeah,
something. Like, you gotta just pass a basic proposal to say who can vote, when can you vote, how much votes do you need, basically, and you need to put those together as one thing.
I mean, what Felix wants.
I mean, I disagree. I still think you can do it in steps. Like we can, like, for example, the permit voting only during the meeting on Wednesday. Okay, that's a yes, no vote. That's easy. The next one though, 33% from total circulation of votes have to vote for a proposal. Well, first off, we'd have to vote if we want to do the votes tokens or not, right? But then also then the 33%, I want to know why 33%. Where are you getting those numbers? Like, does anybody have another variation? So that's right there can change, and that's not something that should be like rolled up into one grand proposal. It's like we're voting on yes on all of these topics. It needs to be step by step, and we implement it as we vote on them. And every single week by voting, we're going to get a better idea of like, okay, this is a trend that we're seeing on how things are happening real time through our experimentation of voting every single week. So now this thing that I'm proposing helps solve this current issue that we're having when we come to vote or whatever. But you know, I don't think that they're like, yeah, I don't think we're going to get anywhere trying to do a grand proposal. Again, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see how the votes turn out. But again, we've been talking about it for a month. Nothing has happened. But this last 2 weeks, we've done 2 implementation votes, and it has pushed us a little bit more forward than where we were, you know, the previous week. So I disagree a little bit that we need to get this whole thing all accepted now, because that's not going to change anything. The social media app that you're talking about, that you're going to talk to Eves about, that's not built yet. So whether you talk to him about it now, or if we have the proposal accepted or not, that doesn't change anything, in my opinion.
It is built, and we could distribute the Eden tokens by next week. The plan's there already. We haven't discussed it because, I don't know, people weren't very interested in discussing it, but
Dan, you are speaking about which platform?
It's there. BBS.
When you say it's there, which platform? Which platform?
BBS. You can go to edentalk.com and there's
of dweb.io by AI Herzog. Okay. When you create a
dweb is the infrastructure.
Yeah, I know. I used the first one last year.
I saw Lenny put his hand up too. I'd be curious to hear.
It's not easy. It's not easy. You have to create a new website there, a new page, and you have to decide of a user-generated token.
It's already there. We already have the Eden Talk token.
You have to make some integration. It's not
the integration can happen instantly, I believe. Like
instantly. Okay.
There's no technical development needed for this. I believe we could do it next week.
Okay.
And we could have people
earning
Eden tokens
with the steps, like said Felix. I will be very careful. And I said into the chat here, accept the proposal like bylaws or not, partially, entirely, yes, no. Because imagine if you accept the proposal in like the bylaw in entirely in one step, without to read every point like Felix was mentioning now. I don't say that this is difficult. I say we just have to pay attention to each step and be careful. That's what I think, that's what I think Felix is referring to. The things going baby steps or step by step to make sure. Maybe there is no development, fine. Maybe there are other things to take in consideration. I will be very careful on that. But I love your proposal. To be honest, I love your proposal, and I am happy of the result of today already, because the last 2 weeks were the best for me. We have made good steps.
Cool. I'm glad you enjoy it, and I see Lenny has his hands up too. So
yeah. Just a few words. As I've been bragging, I have a little bit of experience with organizations. Our vote now this evening, I abstained if you noticed it, but anyway, besides that, it actually has been confirmed that yes, we are to make an agreement out of 2 proposals and comments made, and similarly, and put something together for next week. Exactly what we did last week, similarly. I proposed last week that why don't we put a team together, the developers, the proposers, the people interested, and we have separate discussions. And when we work 2 weeks, I suggested 3 weeks but I understand then we should see this as a deadline. the elections and similar. But the thing is, you cannot formulate this in verbal discussions. It doesn't work that way. We have 2 written proposals with comments. What we need to do, and this is my opinion before I have to pull out of this meeting, what we need to do is to formulate 1 proposal, and the membership have a chance to read it, and we chase them, they read it, and then we do the informal voting. Do we adopt it or not? If we do not, okay, why not? And then, okay, then we tweak it, put it up again, put it up again, put it up again. But it's got to be in writing. You cannot verbalize it. Okay, you can do bit by bit by bit, but why not spend a couple of weeks intense, put up a document, and then we tweak the text, not what someone said in the last meeting. It's just not the way to operate, guys. Sorry, but I've been 40 years in meetings. So that's why I'm sitting quiet.
20 years in
A bit of a
meetings.
chat, but that's it. But hey, I leave you guys with that thought, and yeah, take care. See you next meeting.
Thank you, Lenny, for all.
I have to leave.
Thank you very
All
much,
the
Lenny.
respect.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Great points. I'd also like to respond a bit to Felix too, and also respond to Patrick too. You said that's just a page, but it is just a page.
Sorry.
But
I will say we have to fill this page. That's just a platform. We have to engage on it. That's what I want to say. It's not. It's like you give to someone a tool. After that, he has to use this tool. That's not just to have a place. We have to use that concretely. So,
yeah, I agree.
I don't minimize your work. That's not what I am saying. Okay.
No, that's
So,
cool. I'm not taking it that way.
I want to
but
be clear. With sometimes the words are not representing what we think sometimes. So I want to be very clear. When I say it's not just a page, I should continue and say that has to be filled, that has to be used, etc. So I think you do a great job. Felix is doing a great job. Everyone is doing a great job. And now we are going into the right direction, and we have to move from there. So next week, let's discuss the next thing. We should finish always a meeting by stating what is the result of this meeting and what are the next steps for next week. Like this, the people knows why they joined the next week. You understand? Otherwise, the people will leave after maybe the breakout room already. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So the BBS is just a page right now, but the proposal that I'm making is to provide incentives where people can earn Eden tokens by making posts on there. And I believe that there's no technical implementation necessary, and we could implement this next week or in 2 weeks. And the sooner that we do it, the better, once people understand it. So I encourage people to explore BBS. And if you have any questions about it, I think it's quite simple. Basically, just BBS has an Eden talk token that is already created, and you can reward Eden in proportion to the Eden talk tokens that are earned, and that can be manually processed. And then we could have a really cool incentivized Eden social media app within next week or 2 weeks, something like that. But we need a consensus process where we can make proposals. Yeah. So I was aiming, and on Lenny's point, I was aiming to get written proposals for all this done by today, but haven't been able to because I've been working on just making it work and so forth. But I'm aiming to do that absolutely by next week. And the other thing,
because you said I want to go to Yves Larose. I have to discuss with Yves Larose on October 6th, etc. You will do that on your own, on your side. So maybe that would be great also that us into this Eden Fractal, we know exactly where we are going. Because you are the author of all that. You have written that. There is a lot of text. So if you could pitch that, all what you have made in 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I know I am not a fan of 4 minutes. 4 minutes is very fast. 5, 6 minutes, and just focus on what you have made and what you propose. Like this, no one has all the time to read the proposals, for sure. Not everyone has the time to read, but at least if we have a pitch, also, I think there is the 2 things: the written part and the pitch. Because, for example, Chris Barnes, he was here the last week. And when I stated you have to read, he said, I trust you. And I said, no, you don't have to trust me. You have to read. But maybe not everyone has the time to read. So if you could do a good pitch, and I know that you speak at 500 milliseconds. So you can do a fantastic pitch, I'm sure. So
thanks, Patrick.
It's just a little preparation.
It's preparation, and it's also simplifying it too. Like Felix and you guys offered great advice that it was too complex previously, but I think that and Vlad also did a great job of simplifying it here too. And I don't know if you guys have to go. I know that we're late, but I would like it if you guys are able to stay, and particularly Felix, because I appreciate your opinion, and I also would like to, like, I don't know, I guess, advocate for this proposal and to get you on board with the proposal and feeling good about the proposal and so forth by doing, say, these 4 steps at one time. You mentioned a couple of things like voting in particular. Okay, should people vote on each Wednesday during the meeting only? And should there be only 33%, or should it be 40% or 20%? Basically, that's what we've been doing in the Eden Discord for a while, where all this text, we're figuring out, should it be 33%, should it be 40%, and so forth. So these are the numbers that we've arrived at that seem to make the most sense so far. And I think it's best if we can pass all these at one time so that we can implement other proposals and move on and do things like the Eden Talk or whatever other proposals that people have. But I would love to, if you have time, Felix, just think about these 4 points, and like, are there any points that you're not in agreement in particular? Because I think it'd be great if we could discuss this and then you can be on board with it too. Or if you think it should be changed, like if you think it should be 40% or 20% rather than 33%. Are there any particular points in here that you're not in agreement with or think should be different? Or
Yeah, so I just think, again, I really like the idea of doing it in steps. I know that's not what, I know you want to get it all in one, but doing it in steps is going to give us time to think about it and for each scenario. And then, like, by actively voting every single week, that's just going to better help us understand, like, okay, does this work or not? Like, does this make sense? If we accept it all at once and then we start voting on other proposals that drastically kind of change where we go, if we're going to accept another social media app like this BBS, like, I mean, that's a big move. And then to be doing that through like this process that, like, we don't even know, like, it's not tested, and that our first tests are going to be doing something like that's going to, like, start to distribute Eden tokens another way through the use of a social media. Like, I don't know. I would prefer to see things again in week by week steps of, like, next step consortium, next step. Okay, now these votes, like I still really don't get 33% of the votes have to vote for a proposal. So, like, I don't know. I like I said, I would like to be able to, like, know, okay, next week we're going to be voting on this. How would that affect me if I were to vote this week, if that was already implemented? And then it gets me thinking a little bit more, and then it may be able to open up the doors for more conversation of, like, okay, well, maybe we don't need to have a threshold, or maybe the threshold is too low or too high. Like, but I don't think we're going to know until we're actually testing it and using it week to week. And so I don't think there's any rush. We've already spent a whole month where we've gone nowhere except for these last 2 weeks. So now, as long as we're implementing and voting and passing something every single week, that's going to be pushing us in the right direction. And I don't think, like, yeah, that's going to be that. Just given the results in this past month, I just don't think there needs to be a rush because we didn't get anything done in the last,
so if it's okay with you, Patrick, I think to reply. No, it just I think
seems to be that you have a time pressure with your next meeting with Yves Larose.
No, well, it's an opportunity, and I think it's a really big opportunity for the community, and there'd be an opportunity cost if we wait and stick around without making action. So I think that, there is some time pressure. We don't have to, but it's for the best of the community if we can make these decisions and make it look better.
But at the same time, we have to iterate. But yeah, I agree with Douglas Butner, what he have put now into the chat. Next step proposal, we start to use BBS. Dan can propose that. I agree, it's way too much to accept new distribution in one step.
So
and finish by, yeah.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
it's very intelligent and very smart, and
yeah,
that's why Douglas Butner is a developer.
Of course, I'm also not sure what Douglas meant by, and it doesn't help to put someone on the spot and ask what they suggest for the percentage stage. I mean,
So that's part of the
Felix
communication aspect. What I'm saying is, like, basically the problem that we're really solving here is how we cannot have a 3-hour meeting. And I know it's my first 3-hour meeting, so I'm probably more excited about it than others. But if there, you're asking him, in my view, it's a complete waste of time, because you're asking him like, what are you suggesting it should be, you know? And I see that as you're taking offense to my idea and I want to defend it. You know, you should have that opportunity to defend it. But if that exchange only exists here for this 5 people, how is that involving the whole community? So things do need to be written down. And I think that's a very important part of what Tadas was saying, so that this forum can take place in public. And if you want to use OBS, that's great, you know, that can be the first proposal, because you've obviously seen that you're not going to get people on board for the whole thing right now. And trying to fight that's not going to get anybody happier. So why not just say, okay, you know, the proposal is I commit to start using OBS, you know, or like maybe you could say, okay, in the next week, everybody who has a proposal has to copy and paste or write it on OBS, or paste the link to the Google document on OBS, you know? So yeah, I'm sorry not to get too specific, but yeah, I wanted to say that I totally agree with Felix. It's way too big of a thing to hit on, but don't see it as a defeat or as an affront to your ideas. More like we want to get to know the ideas better so that we can explore them.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as
for
a
sharing your
community-
perspective, Douglas. Felix?
Yeah, if I could add real quick, Dan, like as a community too, that's why partly like with what Lenny was saying is like forming a team to come up with this, like that's starting to like exclude the community. Like our community is meeting every single week here. We should start to formulate things here in these meetings through iterative steps, instead of trusting a group of people to come up with a proposal and then we all just accept it. Like I think let's figure it out as a community through these weekly meetings, but again in steps. Because yeah, if we're gonna go on the trust of just, you know, Tadas and yourself, Dan, on like coming up with a proposal and then we accept it, like that's just that, then it starts to turn like, it just seems like, okay, well now this is becoming more just like your fractal rather than the community's fractal. Because
all right, so let me respond. So
Good point.
there's a bunch of points here. First off, just as a technical note, Douglas, it's BBS, not OBS. OBS is the video application, but BBS is a social media application. Secondly, with the proposal I'm making for BBS, it's not a big proposal, like it's starting very small. So I think it's big in that it can be very helpful for the community, but the way I was proposing it is a 5-week trial with 125 tokens total. So in each of these meetings, we distribute approximately 400 tokens. This would be 25 tokens per week. Somebody who gets level 3 or level 4 gets 21 tokens. So the total distribution of Eden would be 25 Eden per week. So it's quite a small amount to start. We could even start smaller, but it's not asking a big thing. It's asking, are we willing to give out another 25 Eden a week in addition to what we're doing 400 per week? And are we willing to try that for at least 1 week? Basically, that's all it is. So it's a very simple proposal. It's not asking a lot. Secondly, Felix, you asked that you're not sure what would change or what would be different about this proposal if we did the votes proposal. So currently, like we're comparing it to what we currently have, which is either we have no process at all, or we have a process whereby the last 10 people or so at the meetings who were there after an hour and a half agreed via one person, one vote, in which case both of those aren't very respectable. Like they're respectable to an extent. Certainly the second method where we meet after an hour and a half, there is a lot of voice of the opinion there, but lots of people aren't there. And other than that, we don't have any consensus process. And so basically, this is a very simple consensus process with the votes, where I just shared a link in the chat to the Blocks.io Eden token, where that's how much percent token you'd have. Right now, as of last week, Felix, you had just about 10% of the vote. So you'd have 10% of the vote, basically, you know, depending on how you have next week, you might have 11 or 8% or whatever you got. But that's that basically, like that's how much vote you have. And that provides, because currently with the system that you proposed and we used before, like there's a lot of ambiguity. Like what if people can't stay for the full hour? And also what if somebody new comes and they don't know anything, but you know, me and you have been at all these meetings, and then somebody new comes who doesn't know about EOS, they shouldn't have the same amount of vote as me and you, because that's not for the best of the community. So this is a way that we have a simple system where people have more votes depending on how much respect they've earned, basically. And it's very simple. So if somebody new comes, we don't have to say, oh, should they get a vote or not? It just, no, they get, you know, 0.5% of the vote or whatever, because they got a level 4 and they were here once. And if they come again, then maybe they'll get a 1% vote. And if they come again, they'll get a 2% vote. So it's in comparison, it's an interim consensus process. It's not meant to be a full process for everything, but in the time being, it's a much better process that gives us a clear way to scale up and make it so we don't have to make a decision every week about who can vote, when they can vote. It just, here's the percentage of vote that you have each week. And then secondly, or finally, I want to just reply to Douglas too, because I'm not sure if Douglas is familiar with this, but this isn't me just putting on this proposal at the last second. This has been, the vote proposal has been out there for about 3 weeks now. We've been discussing it actively in the Eden Discord chat. I've encouraged Felix to read it several times, as has Patrick. I know Felix is busy, so it's okay. And Felix also provided really valuable feedback in saying to simplify it, and Vlad helped that a lot. But there is a lot of discussion. It's very much a public discussion, and everybody's able to. But I'm asking because Felix is saying that he didn't want to pass this proposal because he's not sure about it. But I'm like, we've been talking about it for 3 weeks. So if you have an issue about like a particular metric about 33%, then I'd love to hear it. So rather than stretching this out for another 3 weeks and taking it one at a time, we can just decide now, okay, well, if we don't agree with 33%, then what else? And you don't have to decide now, but it's something that I'd appreciate thinking so we could do it sooner rather than later.
Dan, every time Felix is stating something, you are always answering to him by trying to convince him or vice versa. I see that a lot of times. What I want to say, there is a clear separation between proposing something and implementing it. So all those numbers that Felix is referring to, 30%, 33%, etc., that's numbers that can change. You have to you have to abstract those numbers a little bit and see the real content of this proposal and what Dan has proposed into the, okay, forget Dan. You have to read this proposal and see whoever has written that, sure it's done, but abstract. And you will see the value of that. The numbers, that's just variable, that's variable. We can still change it. And about BBS, that's a good platform. That's dweb.io, developed by Bancor Network, Eyal Herzog since a while now. It's very, very powerful platform. There are a lot of users on this platform, on those BBS platforms. So Eden ƒractal to be on BBS, I am okay with that. And I repeat, there is the intent of this proposal, and the intent of this proposal is great. I have put a paragraph into consortium. You can read. There are some thumbs up. I have made a resume of this proposal, what I think it's scalable, repeatable, that we can change. And once again, it's interim. It's not frozen in the stone. And as the bylaw into Eden Onios, I hope we can decide if we accept the entire proposal or if we accept to change maybe some, let's say, some clauses, some things. And Dan Singer is open to that. So I think we can. Now a question for you, Dan. If the majority of this Eden ƒractal is agreeing to something, do you will be able to accept, or you have maybe to, you could be able to say, no, I don't accept, I want that we reconsider the vote. Today, you were not raising your hand for this. I asked that because today you were not raising your hand when we were voting for the 6 of 8, you were not raising your hand. So I was thinking, if we come to a majority into this Eden ƒractal, because it is not just about 1 man or 2 man or 3 man, it's about the entire Eden ƒractal. So if the entire Eden ƒractal decide to go with something and you are not totally agreeing with, are you okay to accept?
Yeah,
that's my question.
Yeah, of course. If the entire Eden ƒractal decides something, that's well more than a supermajority. So the proposal I'm making here is a supermajority, over 67% of votes to approve something. So over 67% of people of the respective people earned. So I don't think that like the current process of 6 of 8 people who happen to be there after an hour and a half is, I mean, it's an okay process, but like it certainly could and should be improved. And so this is just a simple way to improve it. So if there's a supermajority who agrees, then that's how it should be. That's exactly what I'm proposing.
I will be honest with you today. The fact that we have accepted 6 of 8, that's mean a lot for me because we were able at least to respect what we said on last week. That's also that respect. It's to be committed. When you say something, you do. That has not to be perfect. Like my workshops, that's not perfect, I know. But I do that since 2018. Every 2 months, I am committed and I have the balls. So today we have the balls, we have voted for something. That's mean a lot for me. That's mean a lot for me. And not only for me, for other people also, because that's take time. So it's a precedent today. That's the first time we committed to something. That's the first time.
Yeah, and
Really.
Dan, to add to like, look, I like the idea of like, yes, as we scale, we should have something where, you know, basically the in respect, and whether that become votes or whatever, is a sign of our reputation and our commitment to the fractal. And yes, that should hold some weight as we grow. But right now we have 12, 15 participants every single week, every single vote.
Right. No.
But like, I mean, like who attends, right? And like we usually like all those votes should be equal right now. I don't think we need to be doing it based off the distribution that we currently have. Because without this community, with it, like we're a small community. If we take out 10, now we're just 5 people. Like, how much are we going to build with 5 people? So we need to respect that. Like, yes, I see that we can like implement something like that later down the road, but this is something though too that I think we should start to have discussions as a community. It's like, okay, well, what do we think right now? Because that maybe should be something that is a variable that can change throughout time. But again, like I said, I think we still have a lot of other things first that we have to first vote and implement before we even get to talking about like, you know, thresholds and percentages, because first we're just doing the vote here on the video. And now we just voted to say that, okay, now we have a time frame. So now we have a time frame and a place to vote. Now, do we want to change that to make it a little bit more official on the blockchain by doing it on consortium? Like those are the next steps that I want to hit first. Then once we get there, then we can start talking about the other stuff. But I just think right now, let's first get those steps out of the way, and then we can talk about the others, because like, I know, like, I don't think we're going to vote yes on that next week as it is currently. Like I said, next week, I can see the next steps would be consortium. Like that could be something that I think that we probably could vote on next week and reach an agreement. That moves us forward next week. Yes, maybe not as much as you would like, but then that gives us to be able to focus on the next thing that is going to be proposed.
Just let me ask something. I see Douglas has hands up too. I'm sorry interrupting, but just a practical example here. And I greatly appreciate Douglas. Douglas is awesome. He's super smart. I'm super appreciative that he came here, but it doesn't make sense for Douglas to have the same vote as me or you or Patrick or Charles, because we've been here from the beginning. Like Douglas is just learning about all these things for the first time. So if you have one person, one vote, like just throwing on knowledge. No, I mean, it's true. I mean, I think Douglas would probably agree. Like Douglas is just learning about this the first time. I've been thinking about this like for hundreds and thousands of hours for the past year. Well, the past 4 months since we started. I've been at all the meetings. You guys have been at all the meetings. Like, and Douglas is one example who's like very knowledgeable about EOS and Wax. But what happens if we invite a friend? Like, what happens if I invite a friend who doesn't know about EOS and I'm just like, come over? Should they have the same amount as Felix?
No, sorry.
Yeah, but what if I invite 10 friends? I think yes, why not? Because we are so small right now, Dan. Our success is not guaranteed. Us continuing is not guaranteed. Right now, we're small enough that everyone who wants to come and contribute and participate, their vote should be equal. Now, yes, we should start thinking about as we scale, like, and if that starts to become a problem, then that's the things that we start to talk about. Like, that's what we're voting on. So we're starting to see this issue come. We're starting to see people are bringing friends, and now their friends are voting in favor of whatever they're proposing. And now it's starting to affect us. Like now we've raised that as a concern, like, hey guys, we need to implement something quickly because we're already noticing this trend. And again, we're small enough, and the forkability is always there. If we get hijacked, we fork and we go back and we continue moving as what the core community, the truly committed ones, not the ones gaming the system, like wants to go. But like I said, we can't be worried too much about like what is. Like we got to do with what we have. But right now our community is so small, every member's vote should be equal right now.
Absolutely.
Now, if we want to start talking about bigger proposals, then maybe that's something we talk about later later on, but like we need a use case. And right now we're just building out the very basic ways of voting. Like I said, really, this is our second week of voting, and this is good. We need to vote
Yes.
every single week. This is something that I think needs to be just as procedural as like us voting on consensus. Now we need to be voting on proposals, whether that being like adding implementations to a finer, more detailed way of like how we can now use these Eden tokens to vote, or vote tokens to vote, or other completely different proposals. But I think right now it makes sense. Like, let's first build out a simple voting process that we as a community can accept, and we can start to add extra layers for security in mind of scaling. But right now, that's thinking way too far ahead. We're a small community. I don't think we're going to get hijacked. And if we do, we can always still fork. And
yeah, I just want to say something before give the mic to Douglas, but to Douglas. I just want to say before that he take the mic. First point, Daniel Larimer, we don't see him since 2 weeks now on ƒractal Genesis 1. And about our group, we are little for sure. And Douglas Butner is an OG. He's an OG. He's here since the beginning. He has participated as a lot of Genesis ƒractal 1. He has participated as a lot of meetings, and he has leaving for a while because he was saying, okay, if I put more word into your mouth, you will maybe say the contrario. But I want to say some disappointment, some repetition. Myself also, sometimes I don't love when we repeat too much time the same narrative. That's boring sometimes. So that's why sometimes I am not joining, but it seems to be that I am masochist, because I am coming fast every week, and I was leaving maybe 1-2 weeks, not a lot. So I am always here. And now we have Douglas coming back, and I am very happy that he come, and he deserves also the voice to raise his voice into this group. However, he has not much respect as us into the leaderboard, but that's okay. That's okay, because this is not only about you, Dan, Felix, me, that I am also into the leaderboard. And what about if I leave now for 3 weeks or 4 weeks? I will be no more into the leaderboard. Does that mean that I have not the right to speak? Yes, surely I have the right. That's why I love your proposal, Dan, because you have taken account not only the 6 into a kind of consortium. So I don't know where we'll go fractally after hearing what said Gregory Wexler on the last Genesis. That's not so, the body language and all, that's not so confident. And about ENF, they are doing their stuff. And us, we are doing our stuff. As Felix said, whatever happens, if there is an hijacking, we can always fork. And I prefer to be a loosely coupled circle, not loser, loosely coupled circle, doing our things, taking account the fractal paradigm, but don't wait on Daniel Larimer or don't wait on someone. Because you see, I said what I said. I committed what I said. I said last week that I will continue to contribute to this hidden fractal value monetary sense. And I have gave 1,000 EOS for this hidden fractal again, for the fractal distribution. And that's not finished. I will continue to give. We discussed that on the Eden Town Hall with Dan Sinjoy and Christian Chris on the last Sunday, that Eden Fractal should be funded, and I am okay to fund Eden Fractal if we have to fund and to pay the guys that are in, Felix and other guys that are working, and myself also, and Douglas if he join, and Bishop if he join. So I don't count on someone else. But if they are coming, that's nice. So don't put a threshold on your head. Oh, I have to pitch my proposal to Yves Larose or to someone else. Pitch your proposal already to us. Make that in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, as you want, but very clear. And pay and respect also the others that are maybe that have left for a while, like Douglas, because he deserves to be heard. And I love you, man. Okay, I give the mic to Douglas.
Yeah, so I want to say, like, first of all, thanks for the kind words. I do appreciate it. As far as the compromise between these two ideas, I think what Felix is saying is more practical right now. Like, we do need to give everybody a voice, and it is highly unlikely that somebody who isn't really passionate would stay the full time. So I think it's a working model. And the compromise would be to say, okay, after we have X amount of people, we could move to something else, or move to something more similar to what Dan is talking about. I really wanted to get in to say like about the votes token concept. And I do want to like respond in written form. I'm on the docs for your proposal, Dan, right now. The idea that it's bad to have these tokens vote is something that Dan Larimer was sort of running under this assumption, which I believe is false. And I don't think that a sustainable economic model should ignore the main token. So maybe I'll write up a little bit more about exactly how that would work, but I'm already seeing in my mind like it could be something that could work in two ways, where a staking model, that is, where you get the Eden token and then the utility is you stake it to a proposal that you like, and then you could have a mechanism that it kicks back automatically or whatever after the vote takes place. But something like that, it means that you have to split your vote if there's multiple proposals on the same week. So that cuts down in time considerations because you're less likely to throw out a bunch of ideas. You really want to focus people on one idea. And then you give this token a use case, because the truth in my mind is you do want people to buy votes. You do want to give the people who are most passionate a route to economically support the rest of the community. And the best way to do that is saying, yeah, you can buy these on the open market, because if there's just sprinting these Eden tokens without that utility, which I apologize if I missed that conversation before, you're not creating real value, and you're pushing it over to this votes token, which then also has no value because it's not transferable. So yeah, like that's my general thought, and I do apologize like for kind of throwing it in there at the end, and I will put it in written form more. But yeah, the actionable point of what I wanted to say is that let's maybe make a compromise where we do go on Felix's the one person, one vote. I really like the, hey, we're all here at the end, we raise our hand, because it's just so simple and it lets us move forward. But obviously it's not going to work forever, right? But I think it's the easiest way to move us forward. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Douglas. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you write very much, and appreciate your insights. I do think, in addition to potential legal, like it's really important too that the community is making decisions for the people who are there. And I think that there's lots of other ways we can add utility to the Eden token and add value and so forth. And that is a token where people can invest in eventually to have shared upside with the community. But I think it's really important to have that separate from the voting token. But I'm interested to see what you write, and I'm open to be persuaded otherwise if you have some compelling reasoning. And yeah, I mean, we've been going on for a while. I think overall, like, the community can grow very quickly. And when we design a system, we should design a system that can grow. And I think that one person, one vote will not grow. It's already awkward as it is. It makes a lot of weird situations. And we have a very simple system whereby we can vote with a token that's already on chain, has many benefits. Those 4 points that Vlad made, we're already doing several of them here. And I think that it will just, I think it's a much better system in many, many ways. But also we've been going on for a while too, and I don't want to go on and on. We can maybe close it up. I'm also interested, Charles has been hanging out for a while listening too. So I'd be curious if you have any thoughts, Charles, but yeah, other than that, I don't know, should we wrap it up or should we keep discussing?
Today, 4 hours.
Yes.
In 10 minutes, 4 hours. In my Swiss time, we are very precise. 4 hours, this call.
Right.
I understand that you are tired, Dancing Joy.
Yeah, well, I'm also, excited about this stuff, but I should probably go outside and stuff like that too. But does anybody have any final thoughts, Charles, or anybody, before I stop the recording? Or stop my recording? I don't know if Felix is still recording.
Well, I just want to give Felix all my support for the next week. So making sure everyone has 10 minutes to propose the proposals. I advise you to also manage the time of the questions being asked for the proposals, and making sure that everyone has the time to make questions about the requested proposals, but also not take too much time asking them and being answered by the person. So it was a great thing that we did today, at least making sure that we, for the next week, have made sure that everyone is going to have a set amount of time for making the proposals, but also receiving a set amount of time to answer questions about them. So it's a nice thing for the next week. And yeah, sure, about all the discussions proposed. Of course, I loved a lot the raising of hands, but we need to make sure that it's the most respected members of the community that will have the most weighted vote in that sort of voting system, which resembles more what Ted has proposed. Otherwise, to come back to the voting system of votes that you proposed, Dan, I'm also in support of that, because of course it's a public good for us to figure out how to make a voting system like that fair and equal for everyone to use, and fun, of course. So no harm in developing that as well on the side of everything. But otherwise, yeah, great discussions today, no matter what.
Thank you, Bishop. Nice words.
Yep.
And
Cool.
I
Sounds
think we
good.
can
Thank you.
finish on something always cool.
Okay.
We can say at 3, 2, 1, 0, go Eden ƒractal.
Go Ears.
Okay?
Go
So,
Ears. Go Ears.
3, 2, 1, 0, go Eden ƒractal.
Go Eden ƒractal.
Woo!
I love the enthusiasm of Douglas too. Thank you, Douglas, so much for joining us today too. And
Yeah, thank
thanks
you,
for those
Douglas.
great
Let's make a
words,
while.
Charles and
I'm happy to
Felix
see
and
you
Patrick.
again.
Really appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing, and I'm stoked for what we'll do. Awesome stuff.
I don't know if I don't know if I am amazing, but for sure I am a good bastard.
You're an amazing good bastard.
Stay true to your stuff. All right. I'll see you all next week, and you have a great day.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you,
I'll see you
Bishop.
guys in like
See you
2 hours
soon,
on the
Bishop.
fireside
See you
chat.
soon.
All right.
Charles.
On the fireside chat as well. Yeah.
Great to see you all. Peace.
Okay.
Take
Cool.
See you all.
See you all. Peace.
See you all.